Chapter 1566. Boom. Heaven and earth collapsed, space roared, and the world was in an uproar. It was as if a god had descended into the world. In the void, three identical figures stood side by side. What's that? At that moment, everyone's eyes landed on the three Yi-Chen. There was only intense shock left in their hearts. Even the heavenly venerate of Taichu and the rest could not help but reveal shocked expressions. It was because they realized that the three Yi-Chen's cultivation base were all at beginner stage void refinement stage. The pressure that the black and white Yi-Chen gave them was no less than the green-robed Yi-Chen from before. Clone technique? The heavenly venerate of Taichu's voice became much sharper. This is not an ordinary clone technique. Fang Tianqiu of the Heavenly Yuan Chamber of Commerce was shocked as he said in a deep voice, "Our Heavenly Yuan Chamber of Commerce has roamed the heavens, but we've never seen such a strange clone technique. I think this brat must have refined 2 puppets." The rest were secretly shocked. They did not expect Yi-Chen to still have tricks up his sleeves at this moment. The heavenly venerate of Taichu's pupils constricted violently as killing intent surged in his heart. Whether it's a puppet or a clone, this brat will definitely die today. The more monstrous Yi-Chen's performance was, the more determined they were to kill him no matter the price. Kill. At this moment, the 6 void refinement stage almighties attacked with all their might. They no longer hesitated, and the invisible killing intent that erupted directly wiped out countless living beings. Countless cultivators prostrated on the ground, their faces filled with fear. Perfect timing. The green-robed Yi-Chen's gaze was calm. This time, I'll make all of you dogs from the outer realm kneel under my feet. The black-robed Yi-Chen's eyes were cold. He descended from the heavens like a supreme demon lord. Slaughter them to prove my demon Tao. 800 autumns have passed since I attained the Tao. Today, I'll take your head with my flying sword. The white-robed Yi-Chen's white clothes fluttered like an ancient immortal. The green-robed Yi-Chen took a step forward. He was domineering and cold as he took the initiative to face the heavenly venerate of Taichu, the third prince of the great Jiang God dynasty, Jiang Hongyuan, and the patriarch of the 8 Xianyuan clans. Boom! Junior die. The grand beginning heavenly lord's face was filled with resentment as he attacked with all his might. His first attack was a killing move. He summoned a purple electric net from the void. The electric net was densely covered in terrifying lightning and resplendent flames. It condensed into a terrifying killing formation. Killing intent devoured the sky as it charged at Yi-Chen. Mid-grade Tao artifact, violet lightning divine fire shield. Someone exclaimed, "The absolute beginning heavenly lord is really going all out." Boom! The net of lightning and divine fire intertwined in the sky. It was as if a vast ocean had been thrown down. That terrifying aura caused everyone to feel despair. Bang! At that moment, a gigantic hand that could cover the sky exploded above Yi-Chen's head. The gigantic palm faced upwards as if it was holding up the sky. Pop! With an earth-shattering bang, the electric net that was as vast as the sea was smashed by the giant palm, turning into endless terrifying energy that shook the surroundings. Pfft! The heavenly lord of absolute beginning spat out another mouthful of blood. 3 of his trump cards had been destroyed by Yi-Chen. It's too terrifying. It's too terrifying. Everyone was incomparably terrified. The patriarch of Huangfu attacked as well. He did not give Yi-Chen a chance to catch his breath. He held a Tao sword in his hand as if he had cut through the 9 heavens, causing a part of the world to fall. Sword domain. Someone could not help but mutter. Rumor has it that the patriarch of Huangfu is known as the #1 sword Tao cultivator among the 8 Xianyuan clans. From the looks of it, he lives up to his reputation. This sword domain has probably reached the stage of evolving a world. I have to admit that you're amazing. The patriarch of Huangfu's eyes were like lightning, but do you really think you can stop me by yourself? You're courting death. Shut up. Yi Chen said coldly and attacked again. Wheel of sun and moon. Everyone felt their vision blur. When they looked again, they saw the sky tear apart, and a sun and moon appeared at the same time. The world shook, and chaos surged as if heaven and earth were being reopened. Boom! Suddenly, the patriarch of Huangfu let out a blood-curdling scream. His left arm, along with the Dao sword, shattered and fell heavily to the ground. Whoosh! This time, everyone was scared stiff. Even the patriarch of Huangfu, who was known as the #1 sword Dao cultivator among the 8 Xianyuan clans, could not do anything to Mad Southern Yi. The latter was too terrifying. Seeing this scene, the face of the great Jiang God dynasty's third prince, Jiang Hongyuan, who was at the back, twitched violently. He was completely shocked. Too fast, everything happened too fast. From the moment they attacked until now, it had only been a few breaths of time. The Heavenly Lord of Absolute Beginning and the Patriarch of Huangfu had been injured one after another. Now that he was the only one left, how could he deal with them? He retreated frantically as he thought to this point. He had made up his mind to retreat from this battle and stop fighting Yi Chen. However, Yi Chen seemed to have sensed his intentions. He took a step forward and appeared before the former in the blink of an eye. Then, his right arm instantly melted into a divine sword and slashed out. Clang, clang, clang. In an instant, thousands of sword gleams shot out at the same time. The void was directly pierced into a beehive. Sensing the attack, Jiang Hongyuan's hair stood on end. He immediately said subconsciously, "Mad Southern Yi, let's talk this out, blurred." However, before he could finish speaking, his entire body was instantly swept by the overwhelming sword gleam. Even his body and protective Dao artifact were torn apart, turning into an endless mist of blood that surged into the sky. Boom! At the same time, a torrential rain of blood rained down from heaven and earth. It was as if heaven and earth were crying, and it was tragic. A void refinement cultivator died, and a rain of blood fell. This was the natural phenomenon of a void refinement cultivator dying. At that moment, the world suddenly fell into a deathly silence. The great Jiang God dynasty's third prince had died. A dignified void refinement cultivator was killed by Yi Chen right in front of them. Even his soul was not spared. Just how shocking was this? At that moment, the Heavenly Lord of Absolute Beginning and the rest stopped moving. Then, they widened their eyes and stared at the blood mist in the sky. "Fellow Jiang Hongyuan!" Someone roared furiously. His eyes were filled with shock, fear, disbelief, and shock. The 6 void refinement cultivators had joined forces to fight Yi Chen. In less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn, one of them had died. How could they accept that? Below, Jiang Li almost fainted. Uncle, on the other hand, Huang Fu Yu's body stiffened as he stared blankly at the scene. The first one. Yi Chen was invincible. His long black hair fluttered behind him as he walked toward the Heavenly Lord of Absolute Beginning step by step with his hands behind his back. His expression was calm. With every step he took, the killing intent on his body soared. He was like an Asura from hell. End of this chapter. Chapter 1567. The heavenly venerate of Taichu's heart sank when he met Yi Chen's cold gaze. He could not help but say with a trembling voice, "Mad Southern Yi, are you really going to fight us to the death?" He was afraid, he was really afraid. 6 void refinement cultivators had joined forces, but Yi Chen still killed one of them. Moreover, he did not seem to be injured at all. Now that there were only 5 of them left, how could they continue fighting? The Patriarch of Huangfu's right arm that was hanging behind him could not stop trembling. "Mad Southern Yi, I'm willing to withdraw from this battle and restore your Chinese nationality." "No." At the next moment, a grotto heaven's voice shook the void again. This furious roar resounded through the entire void, the entire outer area of the Yin ruins, and even the core. In the void, a young woman who looked like a fairy suddenly collapsed. A large amount of blood mist dyed the clouds red, and then it rained blood. Another void refinement cultivator had fallen. Fairy Lu. At that moment, the heavenly venerate of Taichu and the rest fixed their eyes on the woman from the heavenly jade Holy Land who was killed by Yi Chen. It was an extremely shocking scene. Yi Chen split into 3 and fought the 6 void refinement cultivators head-on, but 2 of them were killed instead. Yi Chen's eyes were cold and merciless. He conjured a giant hand and charged at the patriarch of Huangfu. All of you will die today. Be ****. The patriarch of Huangfu was terrified and he fell into madness. Quickly send a message to the other old fogies. We won't rest until we die today. Lei Yunzi's body trembled violently. Old fogey Huangfu, you're crazy. Boom! With a loud bang, a golden imperial edict suddenly appeared in Jiang Li's hand. Then, he bit his middle finger. This unfilial disciple requests Grandpa Emperor to help. Drip, after the drop of blood fell into the golden imperial edict, the entire sky suddenly split into 2, as if terrifying lightning was brewing within. Boom! Another beam of light shot into the clouds. The heavenly jade Holy Lady knelt on the ground. Holy Land, please help. In the demon god forest, the miserable shriek also resounded here. Qianxu Wuhan placed his hands behind his back and looked at the cracked sky in the distance. Things have actually come to this. But it's still not enough. He shook his head slightly. Not enough, far from enough. I haven't killed to the point of Inshu's bloodshed. I haven't killed to the point where everyone trembles, within the immortal tower. Ling Long held the lantern in her hand and looked at the horizon in shock. Sect Master, you've guessed it right again. Those 6 people are no match for that person. Otherwise, they wouldn't have mobilized the divine oracle of Great Jiang. This abandoned star field actually gave birth to such a talent. The carnal desires Taoist lord mumbled to himself. What kind of divine art is that? Why have I never seen it before? Ling Long gritted her teeth. Tao Master, what are you waiting for? Is there still no movement from the demon god forest? The human desire Tao Lord looked towards the demon god forest and remained silent for a short while before he said, What a good temper, but I can't wait any longer. With that, he took a step forward and instantly disappeared into heaven and earth. Deep within the vast demonic earth, the golden toad stomped its feet. Second brother, what are you waiting for? Are you going to sit back and watch Insu get destroyed? Hearing that, the golden ape in front of it remained silent. However, a hint of struggle flashed through its scarlet eyes. Boom! Suddenly, a peerless sword intent pierced through the darkness and reached the depths of the sky. It caused the demons in the endless darkness to roar. Second brother, there's movement from the Xianyuan sword. The golden toad revealed a look of disbelief when it saw that. Subsequently, a dignified voice came from the temple. Second brother, go and protect this person. I think some people can't sit still anymore. Yes. The golden ape's body trembled before it disappeared into the darkness. Boom, 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 outside the desolate god's tomb, in just a few breaths' time, countless resplendent beams of light shot into the sky. It was the Panwu celestial sect. Fang Tianqiu and the rest sent a distress signal to the forces behind them. Crazy, they've really gone crazy. Things have gotten out of hand. I'm afraid all the powerhouses of the 5 sacred grounds have come out to deal with mad Southern Yi. It's a mess. Insu is in complete chaos. They're going to turn the world upside down. At that moment everyone shuddered. Seeing that, Feng Wuxie, who had been watching from afar, had a slight change in expression. Brother Yi, things are bad. These old fellows are starting to call for reinforcements. Leave. If the 5 sacred grounds go all out, you'll definitely die. Little friend. Lei Yunzi suddenly looked at Yi Chen and cried, Run quickly. Run to the outer realm. There's no place for you in Inshu anymore, run? Where do you think you're going? In an instant, the sky exploded, and an old man in a golden imperial robe slowly appeared in the sky. The old man's imperial dragon energy covered the sky, as if he was an ancient emperor that had descended into the world. The second prince of the great Jiang God dynasty, Jiang Duxing, Lei Yunzi sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw who it was. Extreme shock immediately appeared on his old face. Not only him, even the hearts of the heavenly lord of absolute beginning and the rest twitched violently. The second prince of the great Jiang God dynasty, Jiang Duxing, a late-stage void refinement old monster. His status and strength were second only to the great Jiang God. Jiang Li, who was grieving, cried emotionally, "Grandfather!" The old man in the royal robe was like a god. He ignored everything and looked at Yi Chun calmly. "Junior, you killed someone from the great Jiang God dynasty. Come with me." As soon as he said that, a huge hand grabbed at Yi Chun from the sky. Looking at the seemingly ordinary hand that covered the sky, Yi Chen's expression finally changed slightly. Late-stage void refinement. Even though he had stepped into the void refinement stage and had the ability of 3 pure ones, it would still be quite troublesome if he really encountered a late-stage void refinement stage cultivator. "Brat, things have blown up," the artifact spirit of the Emperor's seal sighed softly. Seeing that, the countless figures in the world looked at Yi Chen with sympathy again. This brat was a monster, but unfortunately, he could not escape death in the end. Yi Chen's eyes flashed as the true origin energy in his body exploded. "So what if you're at late-stage void refinement? Do you think I'm someone who's trapped?" At that moment, a second hand that covered the sky suddenly reached out from the void and collided with Jiang Duxing's hand. "Old Jiang, why didn't you lie in the coffin and wait for death? Why did you come out?" Boom! In an instant, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. It was as if the galaxy had collapsed. This sudden scene caused everyone to be shocked. They did not expect that Jiang Duxing would make a move, and this matter would once again become troublesome. Jiang Duxing's gaze turned grim. "Sect Master of Human Desire, I didn't expect you to be unable to hold it in either." End of this chapter. Chapter 1569. In the endless void, a golden human-shaped skeleton came from afar. His empty eyes were filled with coldness and killing intent, as if he had just experienced a bloody battle. There was still a pungent smell of blood on his body. "What's that? An undying thing? An undying being?" Everyone could not resist his gaze, and they were both afraid and shocked. Could it be that the one from the corpse demon sea has arrived? No, he's not Saint Sonia. Who exactly is he? Everyone was shocked by the existence of the golden human-shaped skeleton. In Insu, creatures like the golden human-shaped skeleton only existed in the corpse demon sea. Moreover, only the master of the corpse demon sea, Saint Sonia, was golden. Is that it? Yi Chen stared at it for a few seconds. A gleam suddenly exploded in his eyes. He suddenly recalled the red human-shaped skeleton that he had encountered in the War Sky Martial God's tomb. He did not expect the former to grow to such an extent in such an extreme time. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, Yi Chen would not have believed it. The golden human-shaped skeleton descended above Yi Chen's head. It stood tall and the pair of golden bone wings on its back covered the sky. It looked at Yi Chen with its dazzling eyes. "Friend, I'm here." Friend, Yi Chen's heart skipped a beat. He had not known the former for long, but he did not expect the latter to treat him as a friend. He had even come to this killing trap for him. With the appearance of the golden human-shaped skeleton, the situation changed again. Jiang Duxing, the leader of the great Jiang God dynasty, shouted, "Who are you? How dare you interfere in the affairs of our holy lands? Aren't you afraid of being crushed?" "My name is Tribulation. Whoever dares to touch my friend today will be my enemy." The golden skeleton's voice shook the surroundings, looking down on everything. "Why are you wasting time talking to them? Let's attack together. I don't believe that we can't do anything to them today." The Patriarch of Panwu roared and took the lead to attack. Attack! Jiang Duxing's gaze was sinister. At that moment, even the previous saintess of the heavenly jade Holy Land, Lin Miaoi, attacked. The three late-stage void refinement stage experts joined forces. Their might could be said to be earth-shattering and oppressive. They're finally fighting. It's a mess. Insu is in complete chaos. I don't know how many people will die and how much blood will be shed before this ends. At the sight of this, countless people were shocked to the extreme. Under the pressure of the three void-tempering stage cultivators, they almost suffocated. Fine, today I'll teach you how to behave. The Downlord of Carnal Desires laughed domineeringly. Boom! In the void, a large black hand suddenly reached out, as if it was the hand of a demon god that had descended from the distant unknown star region. Crack! The terrifying hand directly grabbed at the Panwu immortal sect's old ancestor who was at the forefront. With a crisp sound, a bloody arm was torn off. Ah! Patriarch Panwu screamed and retreated. He couldn't believe his own eyes. He specialized in the cultivation of his physical body and was known to be invincible. But now, one of his arms was torn off. Everyone was completely stunned by this scene. When the other two saw this, they gasped and looked at the Master of Human Desires in shock. Master of Human Desires, you've broken through the monarch shackle? The top cultivators of the 5 sacred grounds all knew about the Master of Human Desires, Qianxia Wuhan, and the others. They knew that these people were terrifyingly powerful, so they didn't dare to provoke them. Even so, the people of the 5 sacred grounds still tried their best to find out their background. Generally speaking, they could only display the strength of the void-tempering stage at most. However, the Master of Human Desires' method of injuring the Panwu immortal sect's old ancestor greatly shocked them. For a moment, they didn't know whether to advance or retreat. The Master of Human Desires ignored everyone's gazes and said leisurely, "Even if I can't break through the monarch shackle, I can still suppress all of you. Brother Human Desires, long time no see. I didn't expect you to still be like this." At this moment, another golden human skeleton appeared in the void. It looked down on the world with a terrifying corpse aura that blotted out the sky. The Master of Human Desires' calm expression finally changed. "Old Demon 3 Nether, I didn't expect you to lose control too." Whoosh! An uproar resounded between heaven and earth. The Master of the Corpse Demon Sea, Supreme Lord Tribulations, had arrived. As Supreme Lord Tribulations appeared, the golden human skeleton that came to help Yi Chen, Tribulation, looked at the former with bright eyes. "I'm only here for one person this time." Supreme Lord Tribulations smiled and looked at Tribulation. "It's because of this person. I hope Brother Human Desires won't misunderstand." The Master of Human Desires smiled faintly. "Why? Could it be that this friend is your twin brother?" Supreme Lord Tribulations said indifferently, "This person is a remnant that I carelessly let go back then. Today, I'm just collecting interest. I'm not making an enemy out of you, Brother Human Desires." Tribulation looked at him provocatively, his body filled with battle intent. "Today's battle is destined between us." Yi Chen's eyes flickered when he heard that. It seemed like there was an extraordinary grudge between Tribulation and the old demon 3 Nether. Otherwise, the two of them would not be so similar and have such a strong smell of gunpowder. "If it was another day, I naturally wouldn't care who you want to target." The Master of Human Desires chuckled and said, "However, this friend is here to help us today, so he's on the same side. If you attack him now, it's obvious that you're looking down on me." Supreme Lord Tribulation's eyes narrowed. "If that's the case, then we can only fight." Everyone present was a person who had lived for countless years. Since they had already spoken to this point, there was no need to be secretive anymore. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, Tribulation soared into the sky and turned into a divine flame that surged towards Supreme Lord Tribulations. He shouted domineeringly, "Do you dare to fight me alone? Why wouldn't I?" Supreme Lord Tribulation said coldly, Back then, I let you go due to a moment of carelessness, causing you to grow to this day. Today, I won't repeat the same mistake. Kill. Tribulation erupted, and the two of them exchanged blows. Although both of them were skeletons, their movements were not slower than a living person's. With a wave of their hands, they could move mountains, fill seas, and summon wind and rain. Jiang Duxing said coldly, "Primordium, the three of us will hold back the master of human desires. The rest of you will kill that ye brat." As soon as he finished speaking, he flicked his finger, and a golden divine general landed before the heavenly lord of Primordium. "This is the great Jiang divine general that I've refined day and night. It can unleash the strength of a late-stage void refinement cultivator." "Thank you, fellow Jiang." The heavenly lord of Primordium was extremely excited. "Attack!" The previous saintess of the heavenly jade holy ground, Lin Miaoyi, shouted. A vast starry avatar suddenly appeared behind her, as if it was carrying the heavens and realms. Kill. Patriarch Panwu and Jiang Duxing attacked one after another. Intense killing intent locked onto the Tao Master of Carnal Desires, and they formed a strange formation that seemed to seal off the vast space. P.S. The first chapter. There's still one more chapter. The power went out, so I drove to the county overnight to write. I might not be able to complete the promised 3 chapters, but 2 chapters should not be a problem. I can only complete the 3rd chapter tomorrow. End of this chapter. Chapter 1570. Kill that ye guy. At the same time, the heavenly venerate of Taichu, Fang Tianqiu, Patriarch Huangfu, and the rest looked at each other. Then, they charged at Yi Chen with invisible killing intent. "Are you bullying us because we have fewer people?" The Carnal Desires sect master sneered and shouted, "Ling Long!" Boom! In the void, a paper lantern appeared out of thin air. Then, a peerless woman holding a lantern broke through the boundary and arrived. It was Ling Long. Ling Long glanced at the heavenly venerate of Taichu and the rest. Suddenly, she removed the lantern's cover, revealing a wisp of black flame. The flame was the size of a bean, but it made one's soul tremble uncontrollably. Whoosh! Ling Long opened her red lips and blew gently at the black flame in the lantern. Boom! Under everyone's gaze, a strand of hair-like black flame landed on Divine General De Jiang, who was controlled by the heavenly venerate of Taichu, at lightning speed. Boom! The Divine General, who was comparable to a late-stage void refinement cultivator, was instantly engulfed by the black flame and burned into ashes at a speed visible to the naked eye. Whoosh! Everyone was shocked when they saw this. When they looked at Ling Long again, their gazes were filled with fear. No one expected that this woman, who looked even more beautiful than the previous saintess of the heavenly jade holy land, Lin Miaoyi, would be so terrifying. "It's the void demonic flame." Jiang Duxing sucked in a cold breath and looked at the lantern in Ling Long's hand in shock. "Carnal Desires sect master, I didn't expect you to have refined the void demonic flame." Carnal Desires technique. The Carnal Desires sect master's voice shook heaven and earth. Boom! In an instant, terrifying apparitions appeared above his head. From afar, it looked like a map of hell. It was filled with ghostly wails and bloody scenes. Kill. Jiang Duxing and the rest could not care too much. They joined forces and charged at the Carnal Desires sect master. Rumble. In an instant, heaven and earth shook as if the sky had been ruthlessly sliced open. The void was being destroyed wildly. The might was terrifying. Tribulation and Supreme Sage Sayu fought fiercely. Ling Long suddenly looked at Yi Chen. "Fellow Yi, it's up to you now." "Thanks a lot." Yi Chen nodded lightly. Then, he looked at the heavenly venerable Lord of Absolute Beginning and the rest. "No matter who comes today, you won't be able to escape death." Shameless braggart. The Absolute Beginning Heavenly Lord's eyes were filled with resentment as he said sinisterly, "You want to kill all of us? Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue?" "Really?" Yi Chen seemed to be mumbling. Then, he took a deep breath in and looked at the black and white Yi Chen next to him. He said coldly, "3 pure ones return to 1. Buzz." Under everyone's gaze, the black and white Yi Chen nodded in unison and merged into his body. The aura on Yi Chen's body rose rapidly. In the end, it was as if a god had been resurrected. Boom! When Yi Chen took a step forward, the air shook as if the world had merged with him. He was the only one in the world. All of a sudden, he made his move. It was simple and direct. He punched out with a force that could sweep through all directions. Kill! The Patriarch of Huangfu waved his sword with one hand, as if he was slashing the galaxy. Sword intent surged and suppressed Yi Chen. If one took a closer look, they would notice that his aura was a little weak. Clearly, he was fighting with his life on the line. "I won't rest until you die." At that moment, Feng Tianqiu, the heavenly venerable lord of absolute beginning, and the Panwu immortal sect powerhouses attacked one after another. They used their full strength and even activated secret techniques at all costs. That was because everyone knew that it would be difficult to determine the outcome of the battle between the Carnal Desire sect master and the rest. Moreover, it would not be a battle of life and death. The real battle was on their side. To them, as long as they killed Yi Chen, the battle would naturally end. Boom! Yi Chen advanced instead of retreating. He charged into the battle between the 4 of them alone. His fists swept out in all directions, and the power of his physical body erupted. He directly cut off the sword domain that the Patriarch of Huangfu had unleashed. At the same time, the attacks of the heavenly venerable lord of absolute beginning and the Panwu immortal sect powerhouses landed on Yi Chen. To their shock, they could not cause any damage to Yi Chen's body. In the distance, Fang Ziyue and Feng Wuxie's hearts were in their throat. Even they had never seen such a battle before. Crack! Crack! Yi Chen's godlike hair fluttered in the wind. He shattered the Patriarch of Huangfu's Dao sword with a punch. The terrifying fist energy did not slow down at all and landed on the Patriarch of Huangfu's chest. Ah! The former screamed and was sent flying. If one took a closer look, there was a shocking bloody hole on his chest, and his bones could be seen. Die! While the Panwu immortal sect powerhouse was terrified, he fought with all his might. He actually burned the blood essence in his body and forcefully activated the body, refining divine inscription on his body. "You're the one who's going to die." This time, the killing intent in Yi Chen's eyes intensified. He took a step forward and ignored the former's desperate attack. His right hand melted into a divine sword and cut off the former's head directly. "No!" the Panwu immortal sect powerhouse shouted. His primordial spirit controlled his head and separated body to escape, but it was sliced apart by a sword gleam. Even his primordial spirit was not spared. "You, the heavenly venerable lord of absolute beginning, and the rest were completely terrified. The 4 of them could not do anything to the other party even after risking their lives. Instead, one of them was killed. How were they supposed to fight? The third one?" Yi Chen's killing intent was like an ocean as he approached the heavenly venerate of Taichu. The heavenly venerate of Taichu had goosebumps all over his body. Clearly, he did not expect Yi Chen to be so crazy. He suddenly gritted his teeth and his primordial spirit left his body. Then, he shouted, "Explode! Rumble!" At the critical moment, he chose to self-destruct his body. With a loud bang, the void turned into nothingness at a speed visible to the naked eye. The ground was forcefully flattened for thousands of meters, turning into an endless storm. It was as if a nuclear bomb had been dropped. "Is he dead?" The heavenly venerate of Taichu's primordial spirit stared at the storm. His face was filled with madness and hatred. Even a late-stage void refinement stage cultivator would not dare to take the self-destruction of his body. "Brother Yi!" At that moment, Feng Wuxie and the others' hearts were in their throats. However, in the next moment, a godlike figure shot out from the storm. Then, he opened his mouth and swallowed the heavenly venerate of Taichu's primordial spirit. Patriarch Huangfu and the others almost fainted. Fellow Taichu! He's not dead. Oh my God! Everyone was completely stunned. Yi Chen's expression was indifferent. He did not say anything as he quickly approached Patriarch Huangfu. His intense killing intent was almost tangible. Fellow Yi, Patriarch Huangfu's expression changed drastically. He was so scared that his guts were about to explode. He knelt on the ground with a thud. Fellow Yi, we're all Chinese. End of this chapter. Chapter 1571. The pressure shook the world and shook the entire sky. Everyone trembled because of it, and the shock reached deep into their bones. Yi Chen's might was unparalleled. He fought against 4 people alone. No one could stop him. Instead, he killed 2 of them consecutively. Fellow Yi, please spare me. The Patriarch of Huangfu was scared out of his wits. He knelt on the ground. We're all Chinese. We're compatriots. Seeing this scene, everyone felt incredulous. At the same time, they could not help but feel sad for the loss of their own kind. The Patriarch of Huangfu was a void refinement stage almighty after all. He was also the top existence of the Xianyuan 8 clans. However, in order to survive, he had no choice but to abandon his dignity and beg Yi Chen. No one was not afraid of death, especially those who had lived for countless years. At the same time, Lei Yunzi and the rest who were in the distance trembled, especially the Gu family's patriarch and Huang Fuyu. At this moment, they felt as if something in the depths of their hearts had been fiercely shattered, and their faces suddenly became incomparably pale. The patriarch of Huangfu begged for mercy again. Fellow Yi, please spare my life. Everything I've done is for China. Spare you? Yi Chen's eyes flashed. Divine light shot out of his eyes as boundless killing intent swept across everything. When have you ever thought of sparing me? How can such a shameless and selfish old man be worthy of being called a Chinese on the same level as me? The patriarch of Huangfu's face turned pale. His eyes suddenly turned red after knowing that Yi Chen was determined to kill him. I'll fight you to the death. As he roared, the patriarch of Huangfu's expression was extremely ferocious. A layer of invisible flames immediately burned within his body and covered his body. Being forced into a corner, he chose to burn his primordial spirit in exchange for a desperate attack before he died. At the same time, an incomparably resolute and tragic concept swept out with him as the center. As his primordial spirit burned, the power in his body skyrocketed, rising from beginner stage void refinement to intermediate stage void refinement, forming an earth-shattering storm. From afar, it looked like he had turned into a shattered galaxy and was charging at Yi Chen with the power to destroy the world. As he moved forward, that terrifying feeling became more and more intense. At the last moment, the world seemed to have dimmed, and the only thing left in everyone's eyes was Ancestor Huangfu, who seemed to have transformed into a shooting star. Even if I die today, I won't let you have it easy. Ancestor Huangfu's final roar shook the heavens and the earth, and it attracted the attention of everyone present. Even Downlord Carnal Desires and the others couldn't help but be moved. In this world, there were very few things that could force a spatial tempering stage mighty figure to ignite their soul or even choose to self-detonate. Upon seeing this, Huang Fuyu was not shocked. Instead, he was delighted. To him, not to mention the death of Patriarch Huangfu, even if the 8 Xianyuan clans were destroyed, it would not matter. As long as he could kill Yi Chen. In the eyes of the others, Yi Chen would definitely try his best to avoid such a desperate attack. However, to everyone's shock, Yi Chen did not move as if he did not see it. Only his eyes that were looking at the Patriarch of Huangfu were filled with a sneer. Do you think you can drag me down with you by risking your life? A hint of disdain appeared at the corner of Yi Chen's lips. Forget it, I'll let you experience what a divinity is before you die. With that, He slowly stretched out his hands, divine fist of creation in 33 days, golden fire wheel. As soon as he said that, heaven and earth turned upside down, and the sea of clouds soared. An extremely dazzling sun suddenly appeared in the vast sky. The sun burned with golden divine flames that covered the sky. At that moment, everyone in the world only had the sun in their eyes. It was as if everything had been blinded. What divinity is this? Lord Carnal Desire's eyes lit up. Jiang Duxing and the others looked at each other and saw deep shock in each other's eyes. It was because they could actually sense a trace of the laws of heaven and earth from this divinity. Laws only a Mahayana stage cultivator who had transcended the heavenly tribulation could sense such a thing. This scene lasted for a long time. Only after it dispersed did everyone gradually see their surroundings clearly. What a powerful divinity! Who won? It must be the patriarch of Huangfu. After all, he gave it his all. He would never have imagined how terrifying a void refinement stage cultivator who died would be. Is he dead? In the distance, Huangfu Yu's eyes flickered. When everyone's vision completely recovered, they subconsciously looked up. What they saw was a figure in green with black hair and bright eyes. He was as handsome as a god. It was Yi Chen. At that moment, the world fell into a dead silence. Dead, the patriarch of Huangfu was dead. At that moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on Yi Chen. The patriarch of Huangfu wanted to drag Yi Chen down with him, even if he had to die. Now that Yi Chen was safe and sound, the patriarch of Huangfu must be dead. This brat is too terrifying. Even a void refinement stage cultivator can't kill him by burning his primordial spirit and self-destructing. Who else can kill him? How could such an existence be born in this abandoned planet? After a short period of dead silence, an uproar of extreme shock immediately broke out in this world. How is this possible? In the distance, Huangfu Yu's face suddenly turned extremely pale. After taking a few steps back, he muttered, "How is this possible?" Blurred. The Gu family's patriarch spat a mouthful of blood. "It's over. My Gu family is finished." Even the patriarch of Huangfu was dead. He knew very well that he was no match for Yi Chen. Recalling how the Gu family had targeted Yi Chen previously, one could imagine the outcome. Ha 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 ha, this is great, this is simply great. Following a loud laughter that shook the void, the Path Master of Human Desires looked at Jiang Duxing and the rest with a faint smile. "Old Jiang, in the end, I'm still better than you in the battle between us." Be ****starred. Jiang Duxing's expression was terrifyingly grim. Apart from dense killing intent, there was more fear in his eyes when he looked at Yi Chen. With the death of the patriarch of Huangfu, only Fang Tianqiu of the Heavenly Yuan Chamber of Commerce was left among the 6 void refinement stage cultivators. At that moment, Fang Tianqiu's body stiffened as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. He was no longer as calm and composed as before. If one took a closer look, they would notice that his hands behind his back were trembling violently. The 6 void refinement stage cultivators had joined forces to fight Yi Chen. This seemingly crushing lineup ended up with Yi Chen killing 5 of them instead. Even the arrival of the 3 mastery stage void refinement stage old monsters was useless. At that moment, he was extremely terrified. Under everyone's gaze, Yi Chen lifted his eyes slightly. His eyes that were filled with killing intent landed on Fang Tianqiu. "We're here." Chapter 1572. At that moment, Fang Tianqiu's expression changed drastically. He retreated frantically as he said repeatedly, "Fellow Yi, it's a misunderstanding. This is a misunderstanding." At this moment, he no longer had any hope for his ability. The only extravagant wish was to turn hostility into friendship with Yi Chen. However, Yi Chen was unwilling to listen to his explanation. He waved his sleeve forward and the void trembled. It was as if a gust of wind was howling. It seemed to contain the might of lightning as it charged towards Fang Tianqiu. Rumble! As the world rumbled, it shook heaven and earth in that instant. Then, Fong Tianqiu vomited blood, and his body collapsed on the spot. Only his primordial spirit flew out with a scream, and his face was filled with fear. "Big brother, save me!" Everyone was numb from the shock. Yi Chen did not hesitate at all. He took a step forward and charged at Fong Tianqiu's primordial spirit. Wherever he passed, the space shook endlessly. Almost at the same time as Fong Tianqiu's cry for help, a 3,000-meter rift suddenly appeared in this space. Then, a huge hand that seemed to cover the entire Yin Su suddenly whizzed out from the spatial rift and landed in front of Yi Chen. However, although the hand looked terrifying, it did not seem to have any killing intent. It only stopped Yi Chen and seemed to want to save Fong Tianqiu. This sudden scene caused everyone in this region to look over. Their brows were filled with deep shock. "No one can save someone that I want to kill." Yi Chen took a step forward. Subsequently, a scarlet flame divine dragon suddenly soared into the sky above his head. It forcefully pierced through the sealed space and swallowed Fong Tianqiu's primordial spirit. It was the Emperor's seal. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked once again. They did not expect that even after the mysterious person helped, Fong Tianqiu's primordial spirit would still not be able to escape. "Aren't you being too presumptuous?" As a furious voice rang out from the spatial crack, a figure slowly walked out. That figure didn't have the slightest fluctuation of cultivation, but it caused space to tremble endlessly. It was a middle-aged man wearing a dragon-patterned golden robe. He had a head of white hair, and his eyes were filled with vicissitudes of life. It was as if he could see through the stars. The path master of human desire's expression was solemn. The heavenly essence chamber of commerce is Fong Tianqiu. Tribulation and Saint Lord Three Nether, who were both injured, stopped at the same time. They looked at the middle-aged man in fear, as if they felt pressured. "Second Grandpa." When Fong Ziyue saw the person who came, she couldn't help but shed tears of joy. Along with his words, the world fell into a deathly silence once again. Then, waves of earth-shattering uproar resounded. Because the person who had come was Fong Tianqiu from the heavenly Yuan Chamber of Commerce. The Great Void Refinement Realm was only one step away from stepping into the Divinity Dividing Realm. Only the Lord of the Great Jiang Divine Dynasty and the Path Lord of Carnal Desires could rival him. Who would have thought that such a character could not help but descend? Peak Void Refinement Stage. Yi Chen fixed his gaze on Fong Tianqiu. Even though Fong Tianqiu did not reveal his cultivation base, Yi Chen could still sense the deterrence that belonged to a perfected void refinement cultivator. "Old Ghost Fong, are you also going to fight today?" The Path Lord of Carnal Desires looked at Fong Tianqiu coldly and said indifferently, "Don't forget the rules set by the World Guardian back then. Although the rules of the World Guardian are important, the lives of the people of the Heavenly Yuan Trade Association are even more important." Fong Tianqiu chuckled and looked at the Path Lord of Carnal Desires in surprise. "I didn't expect the Path Lord of Carnal Desires to take action after being silent for so many years. Moreover, it's for this young friend. The plan that we've been planning for so many years will come true for this young friend?" His eyes were as vast as the stars. The Path Lord of Carnal Desires smiled faintly. "Old Ghost Fong, there's no need to sow discord. Our plan has nothing to do with fellow Yi. You know whether it's true or not." Fong Tianqiu chuckled and lifted his head to look at Yi Chen. "Sir, the Heavenly Yuan Trade Association has no intention of becoming enemies with you. Hand over Tianqiu's primordial spirit, and this farce will end here." His words seemed calm, but there was a hint of unquestionable meaning in them. "Just like that?" Yi Chen looked at him and said, "The Heavenly Yuan Trade Association attacked me in order to snatch the Emperor seal from me. Now that you're no match for me, you want to retreat? How can it be that easy?" "Then what do we do?" Fong Tianqiu narrowed his eyes slightly. "Young friend, there's a limit to my patience. I know that your talent is unparalleled and your combat prowess is unparalleled. However, you're still no match for me. Old Ghost Fong, do you think I'm invisible? The Path Lord of Carnal Desires chuckled and said, Since I've come here today, how can I sit back and watch fellow ye fall into danger? Just one person isn't enough, it's far from enough. Fong Tianqian shook his head slightly and said, Fellow Jiang, how long are you going to wait to watch the show? Since things have developed to this point, there has to be an end. Haha, old Ghost Fong is right. There has to be an end to this. Boom! As a chuckle rang out, the void exploded. Then, a man in dark clothes descended from the sky. The man's long hair fluttered in the wind, and his clothes were embroidered with 9 dragons. There were dragon shadows roaring in his eyes, but his expression was extremely gentle. Greetings, Your Majesty! As the man appeared, Jiang Duxing immediately knelt on one knee. Jiang Shengwu. Amidst the silent crowd, countless people's eyes twitched. The person who had arrived was the ruler of the great Jiang God dynasty, Jiang Shengwu. Haha, it's really lively today. Not long after Jiang Shengwu, a resplendent chariot tore through the air. Immortal music filled the air and divine radiance surged from the chariot, as if there was an indestructible god sitting inside. Holy Lord, heavenly jade! Everyone was shocked again. The distant horizon churned, and another old man in linen clothes descended. The old man was barefooted, giving off an extremely old feeling. Old Man of Peach Valley. The patriarch of Panwu's pupils constricted violently. The Old Man of Peach Valley was no less mysterious than the Path Lord of Carnal Desires. Before the foreign sects descended, this person had already existed in Insu. Very few people knew about the Old Man of Peach Valley. They only knew that there was an otherworldly Peach Valley in Insu, and that he liked to drink and write poems to entertain himself. The ruler of the great Jiang God dynasty looked at the old man with a faint smile. Fellow Taoist of Peach Valley, I didn't expect you to be so impatient. The Old Man of Peach Valley sat on the ground, took out a gourd, and poured some wine into his mouth. Then, he shook his head slightly. I've run out of wine recently, so I came to ask if you have any treasures in your homes. Many figures frowned when they heard that. The Heavenly Jade Sacred Leader sat high in the chariot and chuckled. The Heavenly Jade Sacred Ground has many treasures. If you're interested, you can come and get them yourself. P.S. There's still one more chapter. I'll be done soon. Please wait. Chapter 1573. No, the Peach Valley Elder waved his hand. Your Tianqian Holy Land is filled with beauties. They're too seductive. I'm already so old, I don't want to lose my chastity. Looks like everyone is here today. Jiang Xinwu swept his gaze across the crowd and said slowly, In that case, let's talk about how we're going to end today. At this moment, a domineering and disdainful voice shook the heavens. I'm not here. What right do you have to make a decision? Hearing this sudden voice, everyone's eyes focused, and they could not help but look in the direction of the voice. Black clouds covered the sun, and monstrous corpse energy drowned the sea of clouds, causing the world to instantly lose a trace of light. Amidst the endless corpse energy, a colossus appeared. If one took a closer look, they would realize that the colossus was a giant bronze coffin. The most terrifying thing was that the bronze coffin was pulled by 9 dragons that were more than 300 meters long. However, the dragon had long died, leaving only its bones. Even so, the dragon might contained in the dragon skeleton still made everyone tremble. The moment he heard the domineering voice, Yi Chen's expression finally changed. So this guy is here too. Under everyone's gazes, the 9 dragon skeletons pulled the bronze coffin above everyone's heads. Then, as the coffin lid opened, a man in a black dragon robe stepped out. The man's aura was unparalleled, and his fierce eyes tore through the sky. He was like a supreme demon lord that had descended to the mortal world. Who else could it be but Ying, who had disappeared for a long time? It's him. It's the existence that injured the patriarch of Pan Wu. I remember now. This person killed his way into the forbidden area and then disappeared. I didn't expect him to come out alive. The moment they saw Ing, everyone present was shocked. Even Jiang Shengwu and the rest were no exception because the pressure coming from the former was not much weaker than theirs. May I know who you are? Jiang Shengwu smiled faintly and took a step forward. He looked at Ing. I'm Jiang Shengwu, the ruler of the great Jiang God dynasty. Ing looked down at him from above. You call yourself I? Jiang Shengwu's expression darkened slightly, seemingly displeased. I'm the ruler of the God dynasty, so I naturally deserve the title. Noisy! Ing glanced at him and said coldly and domineeringly, in this world, apart from me, everyone else is a fake emperor. You! Jiang Shengwu was furious. Indeed, Ying's words were too arrogant. He was clearly saying that he, Jiang Shengwu, was a fake emperor and was not worthy of the title Guaran. The rest of the people smiled but did not say anything, their eyes flashing. Fang Tianqian glanced at Ing and said calmly, Fellow Taoist, what is your purpose for coming here today? Of course it's for this person. Ing looked at Yi Chen and said, You bunch of dogs from other regions have gathered here today to bully the Chinese. Do you really think there's no one capable in China? You're Chinese too? The Heavenly Jade Sacred Master was shocked at first, then he sneered. This person has slaughtered countless people from our 5 sacred grounds. We will naturally punish him. If you dare to interfere, you will also die. Impudent! Ing shouted in a domineering manner. I'm the Emperor of China throughout the ages. How dare you attack someone from China so brazenly? You're looking down on me. So what if I look down on you? Don't tell me you think you can fight us all by yourself? The Heavenly Jade Holy Master sneered. You talk too much. Everyone only heard a cold snort. Then, they saw a figure shatter the void and suddenly appear before the Heavenly Jade Sacred Master. Be asterisk starred. The Heavenly Jade Sacred Master was furious. Rumble! Endless rumbling sounds filled the air. It was as if the world was roaring, and a large area of space collapsed, turning into a terrifying storm. When the storm dissipated, everyone saw that the Heavenly Jade Sacred Master's gorgeous chariot had turned into countless pieces and disappeared without a trace. When they looked at the Heavenly Jade Sacred Master again, he took a few steps back. The space in front of him had already turned into nothingness. The former's expression was extremely gloomy. The shadow in front of him flashed, and in the next moment, Ying's figure returned to the distance. He looked at the Heavenly Jade Sacred Master with incomparable disdain. If you say another word, I'll kill you and destroy your sect today. The Heavenly Jade Sacred Master's expression was gloomy, and he did not say a word. Whoosh! Seeing this, many people's hearts were in an uproar. They did not expect the Heavenly Jade Sacred Master to be slightly weaker than Ing. The Heavenly Jade Sacred Master was at a disadvantage after one attack. He was so frightened that he did not dare to speak anymore. This scene was too shocking. The pupils of Jiang Shengwu and the others contracted violently. They had a new understanding of Ying's combat strength. There was deep fear in their eyes. Ing stood with his hands behind his back, and his black clothes fluttered in the wind. This is Earth, not the outer realm. If you still don't know what's good for you, I'll suppress all of you and kill my way into the outer realm. I'll destroy your orthodoxies. Arrogant! Hearing this, Jiang Shengwu was the first to be enraged. Arrogant, really arrogant. Humiliation, extreme humiliation. They had always been the ones looking down on the living beings on Earth. When had they ever been threatened like this? Fang Tianqian's eyes were extremely cold. He was clearly enraged. Attack. Forget it. There's no need to end this today. Kill all the living beings here and strengthen our sect's prestige. Jiang Shengwu's voice was as cold as a knife. Do you think you can stop us with just the few of you? That's pure wishful thinking. Is that so? At this moment, a soft voice was heard. What if I join you? In the sky, a locust tree leaf suddenly fell. The locust tree leaf was extremely messy in the wind, as if it could not bear the weight. However, Jiang Shengwu and the others, who were originally extremely furious, were stunned when they saw it. Then, their bodies shook violently. 1 leaf, 2 leaves, more and more locust tree leaves floated down. Who dares to play tricks in front of us? Patriarch Panwu suddenly roared. Then, he slapped with his hand as if he wanted to turn all the locust tree leaves in the sky into dust. At this moment, a locust tree leaf landed on his body. Boom! Before everyone's eyes, Patriarch Panwu, who was at the mid-stage of the void refinement stage, exploded on the spot, turning into dust that scattered in the sky. In an instant, everyone was so shocked that they wanted to die. When they looked at the locust tree leaves in the sky again, their gazes became extremely fearful. A sect leader was killed on the spot by a locust tree leaf. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it even if they were beaten to death. It's him. Fang Tianqian inhaled sharply. He did not dare to move. That person is here. As soon as he said that, Jiang Shengwu and the others straightened their bodies. Under everyone's gazes, a young man in green slowly walked out from the locust tree leaves that filled the sky. The young man looked extremely fragile. However, it was his appearance that caused the expressions of Jiang Shengwu and the others to change drastically. P.S. Chapter 3 updated for today. Sorry for making everyone wait. Rest early. End of this chapter. Chapter 1574. His green robe fluttered as he crossed over. The young man stood with his hands behind his back, looking calm. Qianxia Wuhan. At that moment, the expressions of Jiang Shengwu, the heavenly jade holy master, and the rest changed drastically, as if they had seen a terrifying existence. That name was taboo, Yin Su's taboo, a name that even the realm guardians and the 5 sacred grounds were unwilling to mention. But now this person had appeared. The surroundings were silent. Countless gazes landed on Qianxia Wuhan. There was surprise, curiosity, and even more uncertainty. Some attentive people noticed that the expressions of Jiang Shengwu and the rest had changed significantly with the appearance of this person. This discovery made them inwardly suck in a breath of cold air. Yi Chen looked at the young man in green, Qianxia Wuhan. As if sensing his gaze, Qianxia Wuhan's calm gaze landed on him. Then, he smiled and nodded as if he was paying his respects. Then, he could not help but raise his eyes to size up the world. His gaze landed on Jiang Shengwu and the rest. If I join in, can we resolve this battle? Greetings, fellow Qianxia. Jiang Shengwu and the rest cupped their fists at the former in unison. Ying's eyes flashed as he stared at Qianxia Wuhan without saying a word. He seemed to have sensed that the latter was extraordinary. This guy couldn't hold it in the end. Path Lord of Human Desire looked at Qianxia Wuhan with a faint smile. The latter said indifferently, "If I don't make a move, I'm afraid Yin Su will be destroyed today." Under everyone's gaze, the Heavenly Jade Holy Master said, "Fellow Qianxia, the reason isn't as simple as you think. We need to consider this matter further." Obviously, what he meant was that he was unwilling to give up. Do all of you have the same opinion? Qianxia Wuhan placed his hands behind his back and scanned everyone. His gaze swept past Jiang Shengwu and the rest, and no one dared to look him in the eye. Fang Tianqian glanced at Yi Chen and mustered up his courage. "Are you going to protect this guy, fellow Qianxia?" Qianxia Wuhan's voice was sonorous and powerful, causing everyone's expressions to change. "Fellow Yi is my friend. Killing him is equivalent to killing me. Are you going to kill him too?" The world instantly fell silent, and many people revealed looks of disbelief. Regardless of whether it was Jiang Shengwu, the Heavenly Jade Sacred Lord, or Fang Tianqian, all of them were at the great perfection of the void refinement realm. They were only a step away from the divine dividing realm. However, in front of the young man, he seemed to be a little cautious. "Isn't this too shocking?" Jiang Shengwu's face twitched as he said unwillingly, "This lad killed Jiang Hongyuan of the great Jiang divine dynasty. Are we supposed to let this go? Ridiculous." Yi Chen, who was in the crowd, sneered and said, "The people from the great Jiang God dynasty wanted to kill me. What's wrong with me killing them back? Could it be that the people of the great Jiang divine dynasty are only allowed to kill others and not allow others to resist?" Jiang Shengwu's face darkened. "Did you hear me?" Qianxia Wuhan looked at him calmly and said, "The people of the great Jiang divine dynasty are in the wrong. They deserve to die." The moment he opened his mouth, Jiang Shengwu's expression turned extremely ugly, but he did not dare to refute. When he saw this scene, the heavenly Jade Holy Master, who was originally unwilling, could only swallow his words. On the other hand, Fang Tianqian took a step forward and said, "We can let this matter go. However, the people of my heavenly Yuan Chamber of Commerce were suppressed by this lad. Please release him." Qianxia Wuhan's eyes flickered. He could not help but look at Yi Chen. Yi Chen said calmly when he met everyone's gaze, "Fang Tianqian attacked me too. Logically speaking, his soul should have been destroyed. However, I'm not a bloodthirsty person. The heavenly Yuan Chamber of Commerce needs to agree to one condition." "Speak." Fang Tianqian's face trembled. "I want the fragment of the holy medicine." Yi Chen opened his hand and a fragment of the five-element heavenly lotus appeared in his palm. "This is it. I'll exchange this for Fang Tianqian's primordial spirit." That was his true goal. Otherwise, Fang Tianqian's primordial spirit would have been destroyed a long time ago. How could it have dragged on until now? "So you want this?" Fang Tianqian's eyes narrowed slightly, and then he said, "I don't have this item with me either. However, I can promise you that as long as you hand Tianqian's primordial spirit over to me, my heavenly Yuan Chamber of Commerce will definitely give it to you after this." Yi Chen chuckled and said, "There's no hurry. We'll exchange for it when the time comes." Fang Tianqian's face trembled again, and he could only suppress the anger in his heart. Qianxia Wuhan saw everyone's expressions and said again, "Since that's the case, let's end this farce today." He had already spoken. Even though he used a negotiating tone, no one dared to question him. Jiang Shengwu and the rest did not dare to object. At this moment, two rays of golden light suddenly shot out from the void, burning like two blazing suns. In the next moment, a golden ape descended from the sky. It was not tall, but its entire body was covered in golden fur. As soon as it appeared, it gave off an aura of supremacy. "What's that?" Seeing the mysterious creature that suddenly appeared, the crowd that was about to disperse was shocked. Their eyes were filled with surprise. On the other hand, the expressions of Jiang Shengwu and the rest changed. They couldn't be more familiar with this existence. This was a natural-born life form. It was rumored that it cultivated the battle saint technique and was born to fight. Countless people had died in its hands. Why was it here? Could it be that this matter had really alarmed the Realm Guardian? In an instant, this thought flashed through the minds of Jiang Shengwu and the rest. The golden ape's crimson eyes swept across the crowd. "I thought I'd have to kill a few people to establish my might before this farce can end. At least you're sensible." After saying that, it coldly stared at Qianxia Wuhan. "It shouldn't have appeared. I feel that when the opportunity comes, it should appear." Qianxia Wuhan's expression was calm. At this moment, the Peach Valley elder, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, "Holy Ape, is the Emperor's tomb about to open?" As soon as he said that, Jiang Shengwu and the rest looked at the golden ape. They were so nervous that they even forgot the previous unhappiness. Meeting everyone's gaze, the golden ape said, "That's right. Pass down the order of the Realm Guardian. In 7 days, Yin Su will be unsealed, and the Emperor's tomb will appear. All of you can rely on your own means." As soon as it finished speaking, Jiang Shengwu and the rest immediately revealed looks of ecstasy. Only the human desire path Lord and Qianxia Wuhan seemed to have known about it long ago, and their expressions were extremely calm. From today onwards, Yin Su must not start a massacre like today again. At the same time, no one is allowed to leave Yin Su. The golden ape said again, in 7 days we won't interfere in the fight to the death. If anyone is blind, you can try. After it finished speaking, its ruthless eyes focused on Jiang Shengwu and the others. Chapter 1575. Meeting its gaze, Jiang Shengwu immediately promised, "Don't worry, holy ape. We won't make a big move within these 7 days." He glanced at Yi Chen in an unfriendly manner after saying that. The Heavenly Jade Holy Master and the rest expressed their stance one after another. Clearly, the Holy Ape was siding with Yi to prevent them from attacking him after Qianxia Wuhan and the Holy Ape left. "That's good," the Golden Ape said. "When the Yin ruins is unsealed, the demonic soil will sweep everything. The danger is unknown. I hope you all know what to do. You may leave." Hearing that, everyone's eyes flickered as they left in a hurry. Clearly, they were preparing for the battle that would begin 7 days later. The Holy Ape was right. Before this, the demonic soil was suppressed by the power of Great Emperor Xuanyuan's seal, preventing the demonic energy from invading the periphery. Once the demonic soil was unsealed, Great Emperor Xuanyuan's seal would definitely disappear. At that time, it would be the most dangerous moment. Even a void refinement cultivator would die. Saint Lord Tribulations glanced at Tribulation unwillingly. He seemed to be in a dilemma. The Golden Ape glanced at him coldly. "Get lost." Saint Lord Tribulations could only snort and leave quietly. Fang Ziwa left with Fang Tianqian. However, before she left, she looked at Yi Chen with a complicated gaze. Today was undoubtedly the most thrilling moment for her. The patriarch of the Gu family ran away with Huang Fuyu, afraid that Yi Chen would make things difficult for them on the spot, especially when everyone could tell that Qianxia Wuhan and the Holy Ape were siding with him. Only Huang Fuyu's heart was filled with anger and indignation. He did not expect that he was a direct descendant of Great Emperor Xianyuan. His talent was extraordinary, and he was destined to live in the eyes of everyone. However, all of this changed with Yi Chen's appearance. The Emperor's seal had been snatched away, and Qianxia Wuhan and the Carnal Tao Master favored him. Even the guardian who shouldered Great Emperor Xuanyuan's mission seemed to have changed his mind. "No, that won't happen. I, Huang Fuyu, am one of the most suitable candidates to inherit the Great Emperor's inheritance. Yi Chen, just you wait. I, Huang Fuyu, will not admit defeat." He roared inwardly as he was brought away by the Gu family's patriarch. Only Lei Yunzi was left behind. He looked at Yi Chen with a complicated gaze. Eventually, he stepped forward and said, "Fellow Yi, if you have time, please return to the Yan Huang fortress." As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately soared into the sky and left. His attitude toward Yi Chen had changed a long time ago. His initial admiration had evolved into respect. It was a young man whom he had high hopes for, but the other party had displayed such terrifying talent and killed old ancestor Huang Fu in a domineering manner. There was no way he could treat such an existence as a junior anymore. Yi Chen chuckled softly as his faint voice rang in Lei Yunzi's mind. "Senior Lei Yun, I'll definitely return to the Yan Huang fortress." Lei Yunzi's body faltered slightly before he burst into laughter. "Good, very good." The word senior showed Yi Chen's respect for him. Moreover, Yi Chen's willingness to return to the Yan Huang fortress indirectly showed that Yi Chen had never forgotten the fact that he was a Chinese. Yi Chen shook his head lightly after watching him leave. He still had some respect for Lei Yunzi. Although this person was also a member of the Xianyuan 8 clans, he was not as selfish as ancestor Huang Fu and the others. In many situations, he could be considered fair. Then, he slowly turned around and cupped his fists at the sect master of carnal desires, Qianxia Wuhan, Tribulation, and the rest. "Thank you for today. Although Yi Chen was not afraid of Jiang Shengwu and the rest without their appearance, it would not be so easy after all. "You're welcome." The sect master of carnal desires laughed out loud. "In fact, I didn't do much. I still have something to do, so I'll leave first." With that, he instantly disappeared in front of Ling Long. "Mad Southern Yi, if you're done, come to Broken Dragon Ridge to look for me." Ing glanced at Qianxu Wuhan and the golden ape before stepping onto the bronze coffin pulled by the 9 dragons and leaving. Qianxu Wuhan looked up at Tribulation. "Follow me." Tribulation was slightly stunned. He looked at Yi Chen and nodded slightly. The golden bone wings instantly expanded to hundreds of meters, turning into an undying being and leaving with Qianxu Wuhan. In the end, only Yi Chen, Feng Wuxie, and the golden ape were left. Feng Wuxie seemed to have sensed the unusual atmosphere. He stayed at the side obediently and held his breath as he watched Yi Chen and the golden ape look at each other. "Mad Southern Yi, I know." The golden ape stared at Yi Chen for a few minutes before saying slowly, "What I've seen today proves that Third Brother's judgment was right." Third Brother? Yi Chen was stunned at first. Then, he suddenly thought of the golden toad. It seemed like the latter had returned to the demonic land. Before Yi Chen could speak, the golden ape said again, "Can you take a drop of blood?" Its eyes were scarlet as it stared at Yi Chen, as if it would explode in rage if Yi Chen dared to reject it. "Say yes." The Emperor Seal's artifact spirit, Old Fan, said, "Trust me, it won't harm you." Yi Chen frowned slightly, but he still cut his finger. A drop of golden blood shot at the golden ape immediately. The golden ape caught it. A golden vertical eye suddenly appeared between its brows. Yi Chen's golden blood turned into a red fire dragon and soared into the sky within the golden vertical eye. A drop of blood turning into a fire dragon. It's the Yan Huang bloodline without a doubt. The golden ape's eyes flashed. There was less wariness in its eyes when it looked at Yi Chen again. There was now a hint of intimacy. "This is only to verify if it's the Yan Huang bloodline. Please forgive me." The reason why it did that was because the aptitude that Yi Chen displayed was too terrifying. It was the first time such a person had appeared on this abandoned earth since Great Emperor Xianyuan. Therefore, it could not help but suspect if Yi Chen had been possessed by an old monster from the outer realm. Not bad. The golden ape looked at Yi Chen as if it was admiring him. Among all the bloodlines in China, Huang Fuyu has the highest aptitude. He's also one of the most promising candidates to enter the Emperor's tomb and obtain the Great Emperor's inheritance. The Great Emperor's inheritance? Yi Chen smiled lightly. "I'm sorry, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I'm not interested in the so-called Great Emperor's inheritance." It was undeniable that Great Emperor Xianyuan was indeed talented. However, he was not a living earth immortal after all. He, Yi Chen, was once the king of immortals at his peak, so he did not lack inheritances. The golden ape was slightly shocked. "Since you're not interested in the Great Emperor's inheritance, why did you enter the Yin ruins and snatch the Emperor's seal from Huang Fuyu?" It did not seem to believe Yi Chen. Yi Chen stopped hiding and said calmly, "The reason why I entered the Yin ruins this time is to look for something to extend my wife's life." "I see." The golden ape came to a realization. Then, it seemed to have thought of something. "If I'm not wrong, you're looking for the 5-element heavenly lotus, right?" Yi Chen's expression finally changed slightly when he heard that. He fixed his gaze on the former. "You know the whereabouts of the 5-element heavenly lotus?" Chapter 1576. "Do you know the whereabouts of the 5-element heavenly lotus?" A cold gleam flashed through Yi Chen's eyes as he looked at the golden ape after saying that. To the outside world, this so-called Saint Herb map fragment was valuable, but they did not know about the 5-element heavenly lotus. Since the golden ape mentioned it, it must have known about it. Meanwhile, the 5-element heavenly lotus was related to Su Yuhan's life. Yi Chen could not allow anything to happen to her. As if sensing Xiao Chen's hostility, The golden ape could not help but smile. You've misunderstood. I'm not trying to pry into your secret, but I've seen this 5-element sky lotus in a notebook left behind by the emperor. That's why I recognized it. A notebook left behind by the great Emperor Xianyuan? Yi Chen's eyes flashed as he said, I wonder if I can take a look at that notebook. Of course, I won't take it for free. I'll exchange it for the same price. He did not expect the great Emperor Xianyuan to have a notebook that recorded the 5-element heavenly lotus. You're being too serious. The golden ape shook its head slightly and said in a deep voice, that notebook only records the form of the 5-element heavenly lotus. There's no exact whereabouts. Even if you read it, you won't find anything. Moreover, this item is in boss's hands. I didn't bring it with me on this trip. Is that so? Yi Chen could not help but feel disappointed. The golden ape glanced at him. Don't be too discouraged. In reality, I've been searching for this item all these years. Although I didn't find any traces, it's not like I didn't find anything. Yi Chen could not help but look at it. This 5-element heavenly lotus possesses the power of the 5 elements. It's an item of extreme yang, so it must be in a land of extreme yang. It spoke with confidence and composure, clearly knowledgeable. However, the Yin ruins doesn't have such conditions in any area that humans can move about. The only explanation is that it's in the demonic soil. It took a deep breath in and said, as the saying goes, lone Yin does not grow, and lone Yang does not grow. When the demonic soil is unsealed, there might be gains. Only then did Yi Chen nod. Of course, you can also search for the remaining fragments of the 5-element heavenly lotus at the same time. You might be able to find more information. The golden ape spoke slowly as if he had thought of something. The deal between the Heavenly Yuan Trade Association and you might be completed in a few days. You just need to wait patiently. My mission is complete. It's time to go back. Before he left, the golden ape took one last look at Yi Chen. Mad Southern Yi, I believe you know how dangerous Yin Su is now. Whether it's Qianxia Wuhan or the Carnal Lust Sect Master, they're both from the outer realm. You can't trust them completely. Yinshu is related to the survival of China and even the earth. Since you are a Chinese, I hope you can follow the will of great Emperor Xianyuan and plan a chance of survival for the living beings here. With that, it immediately disappeared into the void. This is a hint for me to go to the Emperor's tomb. Yi Chen's eyes flickered a few times before he came to a realization. It seems like Yin Su's situation is worse than I thought. I can only take it one step at a time. At the same time, the news about the desolate god's tomb spread throughout the entire Yin ruins at an extremely terrifying speed. Mad Southern Yi had barged into the wilderness god's tomb, killed the prodigies of the 5 sacred lands, seized the Thearcha's seal, killed everyone outside the wilderness god's tomb, killed 5 void refinement old monsters, and forced the masters of the 5 sacred lands to appear. This news was like a stormy sea that swept through everything. The entire Yin ruins was divided into the periphery, the core, and the demonic land. Most of the living beings lived in the periphery and the core. These 2 areas were not as small as China after the seal was lifted. When the news about Yi Chen spread, the entire Yin ruins was shocked. It was as if countless bolts of lightning had struck the sky above Yin ruins at the same time, shaking the heavens and earth. Oh my God, isn't this Mad Southern Yi a little too terrifying? I heard that he first killed Hong Ye and the others from the Panwu immortal sect. Then, he faced the joint attack of the Heavenly Lord of Absolute Beginning and the other 6 Void Refinement Almighties. He killed 5 of them and heavily injured one. Only Fong Tianqiu from the Heavenly Origin Chamber of Commerce survived. Even so, the latter's primordial spirit is still in Mad Southern Ye's hands. Tisk, is this kid really a native of this abandoned starfield? Such talent and battle prowess are comparable to many primordial god race paragons in the outer realm. Looks like Earth's luck hasn't run out yet since this person is here. Countless people discussed animatedly. The various sects and low-profile forces in the outer realm were all stunned. In an instant, countless forces wanted to befriend Yi Chen. Anyone could tell that an existence like Yi Chen would definitely become a heaven illuminator in the future as long as nothing unexpected happened. Outside Yin Ruins, China, the hinterland of Kunlun Mountain. After the foreign invasion, this place was listed as the highest military base by China. It was because this was the core secret realm of China's cultivation world. It could be said that the current powerhouses of China were gathered there, be it old monsters who lived in seclusion or existences on the China Combat Strength Leaderboard. It had a name, and it was called the Yan Huang Palace. However, at this moment, in the main hall of the Yan Huang Palace, the meeting hall that would not be opened unless there was a major event was currently crowded with a black crowd. The crowd was moving, and the sounds of discussion could be heard incessantly. At the highest point of the meeting hall, there were a few prayer mats standing side by side. There were many old figures sitting on them, and the leader was an old man in a green robe holding a horsetail whisk in his hand. The old man had a sage-like demeanor and a kind expression. If anyone was present, they would definitely be shocked to discover that this old Taoist was the 8th-generation sect leader of the Wu-Tang sect, Feng Chunzi, an existence who had lived for centuries. At this moment, Feng Chunzi was no longer as calm and composed as before. His brows were filled with a deep trance, as if he had just experienced something. Fellow Feng Chun. Finally, an old monk in a kasaya couldn't help but look at the former and say, "May I know why you've gathered all of us here today?" As soon as he said that, everyone in the hall looked at Feng Chunzi in unison. Worry flashed in some people's eyes. Could it be that something had happened in China again? Such a grand scene had happened when the foreign enemies had invaded Earth, and the past had become everyone's nightmare. It was also that time that the elites of China cried out in alarm and fell. The old monk's words woke Feng Chunzi up from his trance. The latter's dignified gaze swept across the entire hall, and the clamor immediately died. Under everyone's gaze, Feng Chunzi suddenly laughed. His laughter became louder and louder, and in the end, it turned into a loud laugh. There were even tears flowing from the corners of his eyes. This time, everyone was shocked. After all, Feng Chunzi had cultivated for many years, and his temperament was comparable to a rock. This was the first time he had lost control like this. Could it be that something big had happened again? The old monk who spoke earlier had a slight change in expression. "Fellow Feng Chun, you." Feng Chunzi wiped away his tears and suddenly said, "Everyone, this humble Taoist has just received news from the Yin ruins." End of this chapter. Chapter 1577. Insu? Hearing this, everyone was stunned at first. Then, they saw the old monk's body tremble slightly as he said nervously, "Could it be? Could it be that the power of China in the Yin ruins has been?" He really wanted to say that it had been destroyed, however, he could not say it out loud. This fact was too heavy, and it was something that China could not accept. Feng Chunzi said slowly, "This time, a powerful expert's tomb, the Desolate God's tomb, has opened in the Yin ruins. Many forces have entered, and even the Chinese experts are no exception. The Desolate God's tomb." Many people were confused. Such an existence was too far away for them. The old monk seemed to have thought of something and said bitterly, "Could it be that China suffered heavy losses during the trip to the Desolate God's tomb?" "No." Feng Chunzi chuckled. "During this trip to the Desolate God's tomb, a top expert appeared in China. This person killed a god, killed a void refinement almighty, and caused heavy losses to the 5 holy lands. He even obtained the treasure of the Desolate God's tomb." Whoosh! As soon as these words were spoken, the entire hall was in an uproar. There were even gasps that swept through the surroundings. Some were shocked, and some were in disbelief. Is this real or fake? Who is this person? Could it be Senior Lei Yunzi? I think it might be Senior Huangfu. His sword Dao is astonishing, and he has lived for countless years. Only a sword cultivator can unleash such shocking combat power. It's also possible that the Gu family's patriarch. Amidst the uproar, many people started to guess, and they even argued until their faces were red. Feng Chenzi suddenly raised his eyes and looked at the crowd in front of him. His eyes were bloodshot, and his excited voice trembled slightly. He's Yi Nan. Crazy. Dead silence. The originally noisy hall suddenly fell into a deathly silence. Rumble. At the same time, a rumbling shock flashed through everyone's minds. Then, their bodies straightened and their expressions froze, as if they had turned into stone statues. Did they hear wrongly? The person who had killed a god, killed a void refinement almighty, and caused heavy losses to the 5 holy lands was actually Mad Southern Yi? Everyone felt a little dizzy from the impact. After a while, the old monk who had spoken earlier was so excited that he crushed the prayer beads in his hand and muttered, "Fellow Feng Chen, is this real?" They could not be more familiar with the name Mad Southern Yi. He was the heavenly son of China, known as the most outstanding of the younger generation. He had countless battle achievements, and his legend was sung for generations. However, in their eyes, Yi Chen was still a junior. After all, above them was the most ancient existence of the Xianyuan 8 clans. However, the person who created such shocking news was actually Mad Southern Yi? How could they not be shocked to the point their scalps went numb? Feng Chenzi nodded with tears in his eyes. The moment he received the news, how could his reaction not be the same as theirs? Other than shock, there was nothing else. However, after contacting Yin Su many times for confirmation, he finally confirmed that this shocking fact was not exaggerated at all. Good kill. The old monk laughed heartily. Good kill. Mad Southern Yi should be the hope of China. Congratulations to China, congratulations to humanity. No one hated these people from the outer realm more than they did. Now, Yi Chen's actions were equivalent to completely breaking the pride and power of the extraterrestrial civilization. He had used heads to defend China's dignity. Rumble! In an instant, a thunderous roar resounded in the hall. Congratulations to China, congratulations to humanity. Feng Chen and the other 2 sighed softly in their hearts when they saw this. He did not tell everyone that Yi Chen had also killed the patriarch of Huangfu. However, after understanding what had happened, he was also furious at the actions of the Xianyuan 8 clans. Thinking to this point, he took a deep breath in and looked down at everyone. His words that were filled with majesty and killing intent reverberated through the entire place. From now on, our Yan Huang Palace's responsibility is to protect the safety of Mad Southern Yi's family. Even if we all die, we can't relax. He paused, and a trace of excessive excitement appeared on his old face. The family of a hero cannot be wronged or harmed at all. Yes. Instantly, a thunderous voice rang out again. Lin City. The city had changed hands several times and developed several times. After returning to Yi Chen's hands in the end, it had become one of the most important cities in China. Its status was not inferior to Beijing at all. Yi family's former residence, 9 Dragons Bay, Back Mountain. Stupid brother, without blockhead sister Hongxiu following us, you won't be able to find me and sister Qianqian, right? Stupid brother, how old are you? You're still drinking milk. The 3 little fellows were running back and forth in the forest. Sometimes they hid in the bushes and sometimes they hid behind the fake mountains. Their bell-like laughter resounded through the entire back mountain. In the distance, Su Yuhan stood quietly like an orchid in an empty valley. She looked at the 3 children who were playing in the distance with a blissful expression. However, there was a hint of sadness between her brows. Her face was getting older. At that moment, she looked like a middle-aged woman in her 40s. Especially her long white hair that reached her waist, it was like a waterfall. It was a shocking sight. Her gaze landed on the dignified figure, who looked like he was 2 years old, but was actually less than half a year old. The little guy's innate conditions were better than his sister's. He was born with demonic beast milk to nourish his body. Even though he was less than half a year old, his body was no different from a 2-year-old. He looked dignified. He really looks like his father. Looking at the little guy, a face could not help but appear in Su Yuhan's mind. Yuhan. Footsteps came from afar. Then, a middle-aged man walked over quickly. He could not hide the joy between his brows. It was Yi Chen's father, Yi Hai. Dad, Su Yuhan secretly wiped her tears and said with a smile without turning around, "I'll go back right away. I know my body. Dad has good news for you." Yi Hai stepped forward and could not help but smile. "There's news about that brat. He's safe and sound now," and he caused quite a commotion in Yin Su. After saying that, he told her the news he had obtained. After hearing that, Su Yuhan's body trembled slightly. Then, she could not help but say with tears in her eyes, "I knew he would be fine." "That's great. You finally don't have to worry about this brat anymore." Yi Hai sighed softly and said, as if he could not bear it, "I think we should think of a way to call him back, and no need." Su Yuhan shook her head firmly. Then, she lifted her head slightly and looked into the distant sky. She mumbled, "I don't want to be his burden." End of this chapter. Chapter 1578. With the end of the battle in the desolate god's tomb, the entire Yin ruins and the outside world were shaken by Yi Chen alone. At that moment, Yi Chen released the Patriarch of Hell and the rest from the 8-divisional pagoda. He then brazenly entered Tianyuan City with Yang Tian. Although Tianyuan City was furious about this, they did not dare to attack him. Fang Tianchen even sent Fang Ziyue to trade Fang Tianchou's primordial spirit with the 5-element Heavenly Lotus fragment. Yi Chen checked the 5-element Heavenly Lotus fragment. After confirming that there was nothing wrong with it, he handed Fang Tianchou's primordial spirit to Fang Ziyue. As soon as Fang Tianchou's soul came out, he realized that he was in Tianyuan City. He looked at Yi Chen with resentment. "Yi, how dare you step into Tianyuan City? You're courting death. Ziyue, quick, get Uncle Tianchen to suppress this brat. At the same time, activate the peerless killing formation of Tianyuan City." His killing intent was as dense as water. He could not wait to cut Yi Chen into pieces. "You're courting death." Yang Tian could not help but sneer. "If you say another word, old Yi will suppress you. No one will be able to do anything." "Yes." Fang Tianchou was furious. "Second uncle." Fang Ziyue suddenly roared and said coldly, "Enough." After saying that, she immediately told him everything about Qianxia Wuhan and the Golden Ape's arrival. After hearing that, Fang Tianchou's primordial spirit was extremely terrified. He did not dare to say anything to Yi Chen anymore. Even Qianxia Wuhan stood up for Yi Chen. With this person around, how would Tianyuan City and the other forces dare to attack Yi Chen? Moreover, he knew Yi Chen's combat ability very well. It was too difficult to kill him. Yang Tian could not help but snort when he saw that. "You're quite knowledgeable. Let's go." Yi Chen glanced at him and shook his head lightly. He was about to turn around and leave when Fang Ziyue's voice came from behind him. "Senior Yi, wait." Yi Chen stopped in his tracks and turned around to look at her. The latter bit her lips and lowered her head as she said guiltily, "I'm sorry, this isn't what I wanted to see initially." She wanted to befriend Yi Chen and add another combat power to the Tianyuan Trade Association. Never did she expect that Yi Chen would fall out with the Tianyuan Trade Association and form a blood feud. "This matter has nothing to do with you. What's there to apologize about?" Yi Chen smiled lightly and did not say anything else. He turned around and swaggered out of Tianyuan City with Yang Tian. Even though there were countless powerful auras gathered in the dark, no one dared to make a move from the beginning to the end. Yi Chen's name had completely shaken Yin Su now. Who would dare to risk their lives to attack him rashly? One had to know that the Primordium Heavenly Lord and the others had suffered the same fate. After the two of them left Tianyuan City, Old Ancestor Yellow Spring and the others immediately greeted them and asked nervously, "Did you get it?" Yi Chen nodded while smiling. He said in satisfaction, "I only need one more 5-element heavenly lotus to complete it." At this point, his heart was burning with passion. As soon as the map of the 5 luminaries' heavenly lotus was completed, it would only be a matter of time before he obtained the 5 luminaries' heavenly lotus. Then, there would be hope for Su Yuhan to recover. After saying that, he looked up at Yang Tian. Meeting his gaze, how could Yang Tian not know what he meant? He immediately smiled and said, "Don't worry. When I return to the Merfolk clan this time, I'll ask the Merfolk Patriarch for the remaining map fragment." "Will the Merfolk Patriarch give it to him so easily?" The old ancestor Yellow Spring glanced at him in disdain. "I think we should let the Patriarch go with us. If that old man doesn't give it to him, we'll suppress him." "Ha!" With that, Yang Tian grinned and sized him up. He said in amusement, "Patriarch, I'm afraid you're not a match for the Merfolk Patriarch now. He's a void refinement old monster. So what if he's at the void refinement stage?" The old ancestor Yellow Spring's face trembled, but he still said fiercely, "When I was at my peak, I could destroy such a person with a casual breath." "Stop talking. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking?" Yang Tian chuckled. "You just want to follow me back to the Merfolk clan to see beauties. It's best if you can meet 1 or 2 of them. Then, give up." Seeing that his thoughts were exposed, the old ancestor Yellow Spring felt a little embarrassed. "Little Yang, not bad. Not bad. You actually dare to treat me like this now. Don't forget who was the one who called you Patriarch so intimately back then." His green gaze made Yang Tian's heart turn cold. "Enough." Yi Chen interrupted the two of them. Subsequently, he looked at Yang Tian. "Since that's the case, let's return to the Merfolk clan first. I'll give you 3 days. Inform me if you encounter any difficulties." "Alright." Yang Tian nodded and left with Yang Hao. Yang Hao seemed to be unwilling to part with Yi Chen. However, he did not dare to object after seeing his father's gaze. After watching the father and son leave, the old ancestor Yellow Spring said, "Fellow Yi, where are we going next?" "To take a look at our spoils of war, of course." Yi Chen smiled mysteriously. East of the core of Inshu. This was a place with dense spiritual energy. On the ground, there were mountain ranges that rose and fell like crouching dragons. Above them, there were countless towering trees that looked like dragons. Their branches were luxuriant, giving people a feeling of desolation. The spiritual energy here was excellent, and it was rich in resources. There was no lack of various natural treasures. If it were anyone else, no one would dare to step into this place. There was no other reason than that this was where the Panwu Immortal Sect was located. As one of the 5 sacred grounds of Inshu, the Panwu Immortal Sect had descended from the outer realm. There were as many nascent soul cultivators and soul formation cultivators in the sect. There were even void refinement old monsters overseeing it. Even the people from the other top forces did not dare to take half a step in. However, the Panwu Immortal Sect was currently filled with countless cries of battle interweaved together, and there were shrill cries mixed within. The air was filled with the pungent smell of blood and slaughter. Shockingly, with the death of the Panwu Immortal Sect's patriarch, the disciples of the Panwu Immortal Sect were afraid of Yi Chen's revenge. Some fled, while others fought each other for the Panwu Immortal Sect's resources. What was even more serious was that many forces that used to look up to the Panwu Immortal Sect could not help but feel greedy for the huge Panwu Immortal Sect after seeing the death of the Panwu Immortal Sect's patriarch. Therefore, in just half a day, countless forces stepped into the Panwu Immortal Sect's patriarch and fought for natural treasures, cultivation methods, and secret treasures. Of course, there were also many people who were loyal to the Panwu Immortal Sect who swore to protect the sect with their lives. At that moment, Yi Chen broke through the void with the Patriarch of Hell and the rest. He could not help but frown when he saw the mess and corpses all over the ground. Looks like someone's even more anxious than us. They actually came to pick the peaches before us." The Patriarch of Hell chuckled as a fierce look flashed through his eyes. "These ignorant fools really die for wealth and birds die for food." P.S. Chapter 1. There's one more chapter. I'll be done soon. Wait a moment. Chapter 1579. At the same time, within the Panwu immortal sect. Kill! A swift and fierce murderous aura swept through everything, accompanied by countless wild true essence fluctuations. At every moment there were people dying. Ferocious sounds of killing, screams of despair, and the pungent smell of blood filled the area. It was as if locusts had passed through. As the only remaining elder of the Panwu immortal sect at the peak divine transformation stage, Elder Black Ice held a long sword in his hand and killed many cultivators that rushed toward him. Then, he staggered a few steps back and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was extremely pale. "All disciples, protect the main hall and protect the dignity of the sect. We will sacrifice our blood for the Emperor." Elder Black Ice roared and rushed toward the remaining Panwu immortal sect disciples. "Yes!" Hearing this, the scattered Panwu immortal sect disciples responded in unison. Then, ignoring the blood on their faces, they surrounded the entire Panwu hall and looked at the people around them with hatred. They were not loyal to anyone, much less the Panwu immortal sect's patriarch. They were only loyal to the Panwu immortal sect and their home. To them, the Panwu immortal sect was their home. Many of them had joined the Panwu immortal sect when they were still young, so they had deep feelings for everything here. Even though the Panwu immortal sect's patriarch was dead, they were still unwilling to abandon the Panwu immortal sect. "Kill!" Elder Black Ice's eyes were filled with sorrow. He looked at the people from the other forces who were charging toward him with hatred in his eyes. These ants. In the past, they kneeled before the Panwu immortal sect like pigs and dogs, wagging their tails and begging for mercy. Who would have thought that they would divide the Panwu immortal sect like venomous snakes today? They even joined forces to kill the remaining Panwu immortal sect disciples. Boom! Right at that moment, 3 strands of fierce killing intent suddenly shot over from the dense mass of people in the distance, and they were unfathomable like bolts of lightning. "Third Elder, watch out!" A Panwu immortal sect late divine transformation stage expert roared. Elder Black Ice's hair stood on end. He infused all of his true origin into the longsword in his hand and swept it toward the 3 people. The 3 people were all at the peak divine transformation stage. They had been hiding in the crowd for a long time, waiting for Elder Black Ice to reach the end of his rope. Bang! 3 terrifying attacks landed heavily on Elder Black Ice's body. The latter spat out a mouthful of blood before his body was sent flying and smashed against the door of the Panwu Hall. The disciples of the Panwu celestial sect surrounded him to protect him. After Elder Black Ice stood up with difficulty, he looked coldly at the 3 people who attacked earlier. "Wu Mingzi, it's you guys." The leader of the trio was an old man with a sinister expression. He looked at Old Man Black Ice with a faint smile. "Old Man Black Ice, even your Panwu celestial sect's patriarch has fallen. Why are you still struggling? You should learn from most of the people in your Panwu celestial sect and submit to us as soon as possible. Then, you might be able to keep your worthless life." At this point, his eyes were extremely cold. When the Panwu celestial sect was at its peak, they could only look up to the Panwu celestial sect. Now that the Panwu celestial sect's patriarch was dead, how could they let go of this opportunity to make a comeback? "Bastard!" Old Man Black Ice smirked coldly. "Wu Mingzi, you bunch of scoundrels! Have you forgotten what you'll do to the Panwu immortal sect in the future? Fellow Black Ice, things are different now." Another old man behind Wu Mingzi chuckled. "Your Panwu celestial sect has offended Mad Southern Yi. You deserve this outcome. What Mad Southern Yi doesn't know is that this has benefited us." "That's right." Wu Mingzi smiled and said, After we devour your Panwu celestial sect, we'll be able to step into the void refinement stage and become one of the 5 great sacred grounds of the Inshu ruins. Cut the crap. Step over my dead body first. The expression in Old Man Black Ice's eyes became colder. He forcefully took a deep breath and took a step forward. Then, the long sword in his hand slashed down like a bolt of lightning. The terrifying sword intent directly cut through the void. Wherever it passed, many people who attacked the Panwu celestial sect were killed on the spot. Stubborn. Seeing this, Wu Mingzi's sinister eyes immediately surged with strong killing intent. He took the lead and attacked first. Today, I'll wash the Panwu celestial sect with blood. Kill. The remaining 2 great perfection stage soul formation cultivators were unwilling to fall behind. The 3 of them joined forces. Surging true essence surged through heaven and earth, transforming into numerous divine abilities and spells that landed on Wu Mingzi. Under that power, many people were killed. Crack! With a crisp sound, the long sword in Old Man Black Ice's hand shattered into countless pieces on the spot. Then, his body smashed heavily onto the ground. If one took a closer look, they would notice that both of his arms had been forcefully torn off. At this moment, shocking blood was flowing out. Third Elder. Seeing this scene, the eyes of many Panwu celestial sect disciples were filled with rage. Their voices were mixed with sorrow and despair. Old Man Black Ice, why do you have to do this? Wu Mingzi and the other 2 landed in the void and smiled coldly. If you were still at your peak, the 3 of us would still be afraid of you. Unfortunately, you're already an arrow at the end of its flight. It's over. After saying that, Wu Mingzi smiled sinisterly and suddenly raised his right hand. Then, a huge finger shot out from his hand and whistled towards Old Man Black Ice like a terrifying mountain. Heaven, destroy my Panwu celestial sect. Old Man Black Ice's meridians were all severed. He could only watch as the terrifying attack approached quickly. His old face was filled with despair. Heavens, what did my Panwu celestial sect do wrong? Even though the sect master is wrong, what about the disciples of my Panwu celestial sect? Tears of blood rolled down from the corners of his eyes. Swish. Just as Wu Mingzi's terrifying finger was about to land on Old Man Black Ice and the remaining hundreds of Panwu celestial sect disciples, it suddenly stopped abruptly and stopped moving in the void. It was as if space itself had been frozen. This sudden scene stunned Old Man Black Ice, and the Panwu celestial sect disciples who were already in despair thought that they were hallucinating. What's going on? Wu Mingzi and the other 2's expressions changed slightly. Before they could think too much about it, a calm voice suddenly resounded in the silent void. How dare you take my peaches? How dare you? As the voice fell in front of everyone's eyes, a thin man in green clothes slowly appeared in the void. When he turned around, his calm gaze landed on Wu Mingzi and the other 2. Wu Mingzi and the other 2 froze as if they had been immobilized. Then, shock appeared on their faces. Mad Southern Yi. End of this chapter. Chapter 1580. In the ruined Panwu immortal sect. Looking at the green-clothed young man who suddenly appeared, the world fell silent. Mad Southern Yi? Wu Mingzi was stunned at first. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and could not help but take a few steps back. His expression was extremely shocked. Along with his words, waves of shock rose in the minds of everyone in this region. Mad Southern Yi. They were all too familiar with these 3 words. This person had killed God's sons, killed Void Refinement Almighty, and caused the 5 sacred grounds to suffer heavy losses. He had even obtained the treasure of the desolate God's tomb, and there were suspected to be 2 Void Refinement old monsters behind him. It could be said that those 3 words were extremely popular in Insu. After recognizing Yi Chen, the Panwu immortal sect elder, Old Man Black Ice, who was already in despair, became even more bitter. To him, Yi Chen was definitely here to settle the score. So it's fellow Yi. Under such a strange atmosphere, Wu Mingzi's eyes flickered a few times. He then clasped his fists at Yi Chen and said respectfully, "Since fellow Yi is here, we won't stay any longer. We'll leave now, we'll leave now." With that, he turned around abruptly and gave the other two a look before leaving with his men. They were initially envious of the Panwu immortal sect, but they did not expect Yi Chen to show up personally. Since that was the case, the only way was to leave. Damn it! Wu Mingzi was extremely unlucky. This malefic has no intention of letting the Panwu immortal sect go. If I had known this would happen, why would I have come here? I might even have helped him. In this attack on the Panwu immortal sect, he had also lost many disciples. Right at this moment, a calm voice came from behind him. "Did I ask you to leave?" The moment that was said, Wu Mingzi and the other two stopped in their tracks. Wu Mingzi's body stiffened slightly. He then turned around to look at Yi Chen's cold gaze and said coldly, "Fellow Yi, we relied on your reputation. At the same time, we felt deeply about the Panwu immortal sect's shamelessness. That's why we helped you get rid of this great threat." He spoke in an extremely dignified manner. At the same time, the two people beside him nodded repeatedly. If the Panwu immortal sect dares to offend fellow Yi, it's equivalent to becoming our enemy. Yi Chen said with a faint smile, "Really?" "Of course." Wu Mingzi panicked, but he still braced himself and said, "Fellow Taoist Yi, everything we said is true. I hope you won't misunderstand." "Humph." Yi Chen suddenly scoffed and shouted, "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? Boom!" His words were like thunder. As soon as they left his mouth, they stirred up an endless storm in the world, causing countless people like Wu Mingzi to die on the spot. "Run! Run!" Wu Mingzi shuddered subconsciously. Then, he stopped hesitating and used all his strength to escape into the distance. When they saw this, the remaining two people didn't dare hesitate in the slightest, and they circulated their true essence successively before dashing swiftly towards the opposite direction. "Run?" Yi Chen's eyes flashed. He extended his hand and spread his fingers. It seemed to have turned into 5 majestic mountain ridges. They extended 25 kilometers and covered the 3 of them. "Spare me, mad Southern Yi, spare." When had Wu Mingzi and the other two ever seen such supernatural power? They were so frightened that all the hairs on their bodies stood on end. Their souls almost flew out of their bodies as they begged for mercy. Boom! As Yi Chen's hand slammed down, more than 10 mountain ranges on the ground shattered into dust. It was as if he was crushing dry weeds. When the hand dissipated, only 3 bloody figures were left on the ground. The 3 perfected God transformation stage cultivators had disappeared from this world. Countless people were scared out of their wits when they saw this scene. It was the first time they had seen such a technique in their lives. Was he still human? With a raise of his hand, he seemed to be able to destroy the world. Everyone was extremely terrified. Even the elder of the Panwu immortal sect, Old Man Black Ice, was trembling. He looked at Yi Chen with fear in his eyes. The heavenly venerate of Taichu and the rest died in his hands. The Panwu immortal sect died in Qianqiu Wuhan's hands. Therefore, to him, the rumors about Yi Chen were not absurd, but there were always some discrepancies. However, after witnessing the scene earlier, he no longer had any doubts. There was only deep shock. "Get lost." Yi Chen glanced at the cultivators who followed Wu Mingzi and spoke suddenly. His voice was loud like a bell. Whoosh! As his voice fell, there were countless whooshing sounds in the world. Countless figures rushed in all directions, wishing their parents had given them another leg to walk on. In less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the world returned to its empty state. Only the Panwu immortal sect's dilapidated gate showed that the scene earlier was not an illusion. "You're still too kind." The Patriarch of Hell appeared quietly and shook his head while looking at Yi Chen. With his personality, the 1,000 people earlier would definitely follow in the footsteps of Wu Mingzi and the rest. Yi Chen smiled and said nothing. Instead, He turned around and glanced at Old Man Black Ice and the rest. Then, he walked over slowly with his hands behind his back. "Protect the third elder," someone shouted. The hundreds of Panwu Immortal Sect disciples, who were afraid of Yi Chen, rushed forward immediately. They protected Old Man Black Ice behind them while looking at Yi Chen in fear. There was determination and fear in their eyes. Killing intent flashed in the Patriarch of Hell's eyes when he saw that. Just as he was about to attack, he heard Elder Black Ice, who was protected behind him, suddenly say, "Gong Jian, let them come." The man called Gong Jian's expression changed slightly, but he still waved his hand and gestured for everyone to disperse. Subsequently, under everyone's gaze, Old Man Black Ice stood up slowly and walked toward Yi Chen with a dispirited aura. Plop! He suddenly knelt down heavily and begged, "Fellow Yi, I'm willing to kill myself. I wonder if you can spare the remaining members of the Panwu Immortal Sect?" He knew very well that even if he was at his peak, he could not compare to a single strand of Yi Chen's hair, let alone now that he was at the end of his tether. Yi Chen suddenly laughed when he met his pleading gaze. "When did I say I'm going to destroy your Panwu Immortal Sect?" Old Man Black Ice was stunned at first. Then, disbelief surged on his old face. What did you say?" He was not the only one. Even the many Panwu Immortal Sect disciples were in disbelief. "Anyone who offended me in your Panwu Immortal Sect is dead." Yi Chen looked at him calmly. "As for you guys, you have no enmity with me. Why would I kill you? Of course, if you want to avenge the Patriarch of Panwu and the rest, you can try." I wouldn't dare." Old Man Black Ice immediately cried tears of joy. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. "Thank you, fellow Yi, thank you." End of this chapter. Chapter 1581. Although I won't kill you guys, it doesn't mean that I'm willing to nurture a tiger. Yi Chen spoke again. "Cultivators above nascent soul, hand over your soul blood and I'll spare your lives." The reason why he let the disciples of the Panwu Immortal Sect go was because he saw that they were unwilling to leave after the death of the sect master. They would rather die to protect the sect. It would be a lie to say that such a pure heart did not touch people's hearts. What? As soon as he finished speaking, many people's expressions changed. The reason being that once they handed over the mixed blood, it would mean that their lives were in Yi Chen's hands. If the latter wanted them to live, they would live. If he wanted them to die, they would definitely not live past tomorrow. Suddenly, a beginner stage God transformation stage old man laughed out of extreme anger. "Kill me if you want. Why would I be your lackey?" Bang! Before he could finish, he was killed by the Patriarch of Hell with a slap. The Patriarch of Hell sized up the crowd with a cold smile. Who else? Dead silence. The scene was dead silent. Even if there were people who were unwilling, after seeing the former's death, no one dared to stand up and object. Yi Chen looked at Old Man Black Ice calmly. "Have you thought it through?" Old Man Black Ice looked conflicted. Yi Chen said again, "I only want you to be free for 10 years. I'll return your soul blood once the 10 years are up." Alright. Old Man Black Ice chose to compromise in the end. Without hesitation, he handed over his soul blood respectfully. The others hesitated for a moment before handing over their soul blood one after another. To him, an existence like Yi Chen would definitely not lie to him. Moreover, he was only at perfected God transformation stage. He was nothing. From today onwards, I'll take over the position of the Panwu Immortal Sect Master. Yi Chen eased his expression and glanced at the faces. "Perhaps your cultivation aptitude isn't good enough or your abilities aren't good enough, but that's not important. All you have to do is be loyal to me." After saying that, he looked at Old Man Black Ice. "Bring me to the Panwu Immortal Sect's treasure vault." "Yes, Sect Master." Old Man Black Ice's expression was extremely complicated. An hour later, a shocking news spread throughout the entire Yin ruins. It was that mad Southern Yi had single-handedly suppressed the Panwu Immortal Sect, and became the sect master of the Panwu immortal sect. When news of this spread out, all the powers were shocked, and besides being shocked, they were extremely disappointed. Obviously, they couldn't target the Panwu celestial sect anymore. On the other hand, the remaining 4 sacred grounds remained silent. Clearly, they were afraid of Yi Chen's strength. At the same time, they were afraid of Qianxia Wuhan, the Tao master of human desire, and Ying. 2 days later, another piece of news came out. At the Yan Huang stronghold, the Xianyuan 8 tribes were in internal strife. The patriarchs of the Qin family and the Ji family perished in battle, and Lei Yunzi was the only one who managed to escape. The patriarch of the Gu family unified the Xianyuan 8 races, and at the same time, he offered a handsome bounty on Lei Yunzi's head. As soon as this news spread out, it caused the entire Yin Su to be extremely shocked. The Xianyuan 8 races were the last forces of China. As the 8 races of the great Emperor Xuanyuan's direct bloodline, there were 8 void refinement stage powerhouses guarding them. This was also the reason why the great Jiang God dynasty and the other powers did not dare to push them too far. Now that the patriarchs of the Qin family and the Ji family had died in battle, it was equivalent to losing 2 void refinement stage powerhouses. In addition to Lei Yunzi, who had betrayed them, the Xianyuan 8 races only existed in name. There were only 5 void refinement stage powerhouses left. In the Panwu immortal sect, all the disciples of the Panwu immortal sect raised their heads at the same time. Their eyes were filled with fear. Thick layers of clouds rumbled in the sky above them. Those clouds seemed to be formed from endless lightning. Just a trace of pressure that was emitted from them was enough to cause quite a few people to be unable to bear the burden. Old Man Black Ice stood in the distance and looked at the phenomenon in the sky. Apart from being shocked, there was a hint of envy in his eyes. This is the heavenly tribulation phenomenon of stepping into heaven rank 3. The phenomenon was sensed by all the major forces at the same time. In an instant, countless eyes were focused on the Panwu immortal sect. In the royal family of the great Jiang God dynasty, Jiang Duxing took a step forward with a solemn expression. This is the heavenly tribulation of heaven rank 3. Someone is about to step into heaven rank 3. In Tianyuan City, Fang Tianchen rode on a cloud and saw through everything. It's in the direction of the Panwu immortal sect. More and more forces were paying attention. In the path of cultivation, it was about refining essence into qi, refining qi into spirit, refining spirit to return to void, and refining void into Tao. The process from void to Tao was known as the 3 stages of heaven rank. The 3 stages of heaven rank were the void refinement stage, divine division stage, and unity stage. Above them were the tribulation stage, Mahayana stage, and immortal stage. In the sky above the Panwu immortal sect. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying thunderbolt fell from the sky in the thick clouds below the Panwu immortal sect. It then whizzed toward a palace on the ground with a terrifying aura. Under the nervous gazes of many disciples, a young man in black suddenly shot out of the palace and took the initiative to face the terrifying thunderbolt. Ha ha ha, how comfortable! After the young man in black was enveloped by the terrifying thunderbolt, not only did he not show any signs of injury, but he even laughed non-stop as if he had been nourished. This. Old man He Bing's eyeballs almost popped out when he saw this. After an hour, the thundercloud dissipated, and the young man in black in the sky was unharmed. Instead, his aura and physique had changed drastically. In old man He Bing's eyes, if the young man in black was like a young man before, then there was a dangerous aura now. It was as if he was not a human, but a god patrolling on behalf of the heavens. At that moment, a faint laugh exploded in the air. Congratulations to the patriarch for stepping into beginner stage void refinement stage and successfully forging the lightning demon body. Subsequently, Yi Chen's figure appeared in the air. This lightning demon body is indeed domineering. The patriarch of hell retracted his aura and looked at Yi Chen gratefully. He can absorb the heavenly lightning to forge his body. In that case, I won't be afraid of the so-called 9-9 heavenly tribulation after cultivating it to mastery. Yi Chen smiled and landed on the ground. Old man He Bing and the rest immediately came up to him. Greetings, sect master. Did anything major happen today? Yi Chen asked. Over the past 2 days, he had been in closed-door cultivation to help the patriarch break through, so he did not pay attention to the outside world. There's an internal strife in the 8 Xianyuan clans. Old man He Bing hesitated for a moment, but he still told him everything that had happened. He said, "Now, the patriarch of the Gu family is in charge of the 8 Xianyuan clans, and Lei Yunzi has defected with a portion of his people." Defected? Yi Chen chuckled and narrowed his eyes. Based on what I know about Lei Yunzi, it must be the patriarch of the Gu family who forced him into a dead end. What a Xianyuan clan! Lei Yunzi's whereabouts are unknown now. Old man He Bing nodded. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and said, "By the way, sect master, someone from the Merfolk clan came to ask me to give you something yesterday. You were in closed-door cultivation at that time, so I didn't want to disturb you with that." He took off a storage ring on his hand and handed it to Yi Chen. Yi Chen took it. After wiping away the divine consciousness imprint on it, what he saw made his expression turn completely cold. In an instant, the temperature between heaven and earth dropped to its lowest point. End of this chapter. Chapter 1582. The Patriarch of Hell's expression turned grim when he sensed the coldness coming from Yi Chen. Did something happen? Yi Chen took a deep breath in and handed him the storage ring in his hand. The Patriarch of Hell took it and took a look. The scene that entered his eyes made his gaze turn cold. A severed hand. It was a severed hand that was dripping with blood. It seemed to have been forcefully cut off by someone, and the blood on it had yet to dry. What caught the Patriarch of Hell's attention the most was the diamond ring on the severed hand. He looked at Yi Chen immediately. Something happened to Yang Tian. Yang Tian had always worn the ring on his hand, because it was the only thing his wife had left him before she passed away. It had never left his hand. In that case, the owner of the severed hand was obvious. Thinking to this point, the Patriarch of Hell's gaze was extremely cold. Looks like someone is targeting me. He had lived for more than 10,000 years in his previous life, and his intelligence was almost demonic. He immediately figured out the ins and outs of the matter. Cut off Yang Tian's hand and get someone to send it here. Yi Chen smiled lightly. A cold gleam surged from the depths of his calm eyes. The goal is naturally to provoke me and lure me there. What? Hearing that, old man He Bing's expression changed slightly. Sect master, you've shocked the world today. Who else dares to provoke you? Could it be the 4 great sacred grounds? Yi Chen said, "Who's the person who gave this token?" "It's a woman." Old man He Bing pondered and said, "She claimed to be from the Merfolk clan. She left after giving me the token." "The Merfolk clan?" The Patriarch of Hell sneered. "Yang Tian is the son-in-law of the Merfolk clan. Why would the Merfolk clan treat him like this? Looks like something must have happened to the Merfolk clan. It's still unknown if the woman who gave the token is from the Merfolk clan." "Activate the formation." Yi Chen glanced at old man He Bing and said, "I'd like to see what exactly happened to the Merfolk clan. Who dares to provoke me so openly?" Just as he finished speaking, Elder Black Ice said hesitantly, "Sect Master, you might not know this, but the teleportation array in the sect was destroyed by a disciple who betrayed the sect. It hasn't been repaired yet due to the lack of a material." After the news of Patriarch Panwu's death spread, the Panwu celestial sect was in chaos. Some of them escaped through the teleportation formation. Worried that they would be punished, they destroyed the other end of the teleportation formation. He seemed to be worried that Yi Chen would be enraged after saying that, so he said, "However, there's no need to be angry, sect master. There's a city called Moli City 3,000 kilometers away from the Panwu Immortal Sect in the northern part of the Inshu Core. I believe they have a formation, An hour later, Yi Chun and the Patriarch of Hell arrived at Moli City. The city spanned hundreds of miles. There were pavilions of various sizes everywhere and countless cultivators. According to the information provided by the Patriarch of Panwu, Moli City was controlled by the 4 major sections. The 4 major sects were all foreign sections. Although there were no void refinement old monsters, the 4 major sects were united. They were also good at a joint attack that could fight void refinement cultivators. Therefore, even the 5 sacred grounds did not underestimate Moli City easily. Moli City had become a cultivation city that was comparable to Tianyuan City and Heavenly Evil City. In order not to alert the enemy, Yi Chun and the Patriarch of Hell did not enter the city in a high-profile manner. Instead, they hid their cultivation base and handed over a few spirit stones. They entered the city gate quietly. As soon as he entered the city, several divine consciousnesses enveloped him. They stayed for a few seconds before retracting quietly. Yi Chun and the Patriarch of Hell looked at each other. They pretended that nothing had happened and walked toward the teleportation formation in Moli City. Not long after they left, 2 old figures landed at the place where they were earlier. The eyes of the old man in black flickered as he said, "I still haven't found the aura of that group of people. I'm starting to suspect that they're in Moli City. Let's search a few more times." The other old man said, "After all, the bounty is extremely generous." The old man in black nodded slightly. With a flash of his body, he disappeared into the distance with the former. Many pedestrians on the street did not notice such a commotion. What they did not know was that Yi Chun and the Patriarch of Hell's divine consciousnesses were on them from the beginning until the 2 of them left their sight completely. The Patriarch of Hell said, "These 2 are both at stage God transformation. It seems like they're from the 4 great sects of Moli City. I wonder who they're looking for." "As long as it's not us, that's enough," Yi Chun said. "Otherwise, there's no need for the so-called 4 great sects to exist." With that, he immediately brought the Patriarch of Hell to the direction of the teleportation formation that he sensed. From afar, he saw 3 giant teleportation formations standing in a huge square. At that moment, the square was already filled with people. Whispers could be heard faintly. Yi Chun and the Patriarch of Hell walked into the crowd and lifted their eyes to look at the 3 giant teleportation formations. However, they realized that there were people guarding the teleportation formations at that moment. The teleportation formations had long been shut down. Among the dozen or so figures guarding the teleportation formations, the leader was a gray-robed old man. The old man sat cross-legged and closed his eyes to rest. Chapter 1583. Whoosh. Seeing this, the crowd that was squeezed together immediately dispersed in an uproar. Then, they stood in the distance and watched the scene in fear. Only Yi Chun and the Patriarch of Hell stood where they were and watched coldly. "Little girl, come with me." The gray-robed old man looked at the flustered woman with a cold smile and approached her step by step. "As long as you tell me the whereabouts of the others, I can spare your life." Tap, tap, tap. The woman took a few steps back abruptly until she was next to Yi Chun and the Patriarch of Hell. She mustered her courage and looked at the former hatefully. "Don't even think about it. Ning, won't tell me where Grandpa Lay and the rest are even if I die. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." The gray-robed old man's gaze turned cold as he snorted. "Since that's the case, don't blame me for being merciless. After I capture you, I'll naturally have a way to force you to tell me where that old thing, Lei Yunzi, is." Boom! In an instant, a green claw mark attacked the woman at lightning speed. At that moment, the woman felt an extremely powerful pressure coming at her, causing her to be unable to move. She could not even commit suicide. She could only remain motionless, her eyes filled with fear. However, in the next moment, the gray-robed old man's expression changed because he realized that his attack had instantly collapsed when it was about to land on the woman. At that moment, he noticed Yi Chun and the Patriarch of Hell next to the woman. "It's you. Were you the ones who attacked just now?" His gaze suddenly turned extremely cold. "Brat, you're simply courting death." Before he could finish his sentence, he felt a blur in front of him. Then, a wide arm grabbed his neck and lifted him into the air. The Patriarch of Hell looked at him with a faint smile. "How dare a piece of trash like you yell in front of me? Who are you?" The gray-robed old man's face was filled with fear because the black-clothed young man before him had captured him easily. One had to know that he was a perfect stage god transformation stage cultivator. Let go of Elder Wu. At the same time, the disciples who were in charge of guarding the teleportation formation surrounded them. They looked at Yi Chun and the Patriarch of Hell with killing intent. Yi Chun acted as if he did not see it. He looked at the lady who was petrified calmly and said while smiling, "Can you tell me Grandpa's name?" She looked at Yi Chun timidly, and then at the gray-robed old man who was lifted into the air by the Patriarch of Hell. Eventually, she bit her lip and said, "My grandfather's name is Lei Yunzi." Although she did not know Yi Chun, she could tell from the situation that Yi Chun was not hostile towards her. Lei Yunzi. Yi Chun's eyes lit up slightly as he said while smiling, "Good, very good." He had learned from Old Man Black Ice about the internal strife of the Xianyuan 8 families and Lei Yunzi's betrayal. If it wasn't for Yang Tian, he would have gone looking for Lei Yunzi. Who would have thought that he would hear about Lei Yunzi here? How could he not be pleasantly surprised? Yi Chun looked at the lady again as he thought to this point, "I'm Grandpa's friend. Can you bring me to him?" The woman looked at him suspiciously. Yi Chun frowned slightly and said, "Do you know Taoist priest Beiyan? Are you talking about Grandpa Beiyan?" The woman nodded immediately and said, "Grandpa Beiyan treats Ning very well. Fellow Beiyan is also my friend." Yi Chun could not help but say with a smile, "You should believe me now, right? What about them?" The woman looked at the gray-robed old man and the rest weakly. Yi Chun said without turning his head, "Kill them all." "All right." The Patriarch of Hell laughed sinisterly. Under the gray-robed old man's terrified gaze, he forcefully crushed his body and primordial spirit. Then, he took a step forward, and the cultivators surrounding the two of them turned into bloody mist on the spot. Dead silence. The world was as silent as death. Many people standing in the distance saw this scene, and they seemed to have been petrified. Their faces were filled with shock and fear. Even the woman was stunned. Yi Chun looked at the woman as if he did not see anything. "Let's go. Bring me to Grandpa. Only I can protect Grandpa." It was unknown if she was frightened or if it was for some other reason, but the woman nodded subconsciously and walked in front in a daze. "Follow me." Yi Chun glanced at the Patriarch of Hell. Only after the three of them left did the crowd, who had sunk into a petrified state, react. Soon after, waves of gasping sounds erupted. "Elder Wu of the Great River Sect is dead. This matter has blown up." In less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn, at a mass grave in Moli City. The woman brought Yi Chun and Yi Chun all the way there. Then, she pointed weakly at the mass grave. "My grandpa and the rest are inside." Yi Chun could not help but look around. All he saw were weeds and rotten corpses that were exposed outside. "Thank you, Ning-er." If he had not sensed Lei Yunzi's aura, how could he believe that one of the 8 giants of the Xianyuan 8 clans, a void refinement old monster, Lei Yunzi, would hide in this place? "Who is it?" At the same time, a cry of alarm came from the mass grave. Then, countless figures shot over. They attacked Yi Chun and the Patriarch of Hell without saying a word. They were filled with intense killing intent. A bunch of little bastards. The Patriarch of Hell's gaze turned cold. He was about to kill them with a slap when Yi Chun stopped him. "Patriarch, don't hurt them." Plop. In an instant, the 4 figures that shot out fell to the ground, revealing the appearances of 4 young men and women. However, the 4 of them were looking at the Patriarch of Hell with fear in their eyes. "Brother Xiaowu, it's a misunderstanding." Ning who had reacted, immediately went up and helped a young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes up. He explained, "They're here to save Grandpa. Ning don't be fooled by them. They're definitely here to capture us." The young man wanted to say something but hesitated. Apart from fear, there was more hatred in his eyes when he looked at Yi Chen again. "Fellow Yi?" At this moment, a trembling voice came from afar. Whoosh! Then, an old figure shot out, revealing the face of an old man in a tattered Taoist robe with an extremely dispirited expression. It was Taoist Beiyan. The young man called Xiaowu and the others hurriedly said, "Greetings, Senior Beiyan." "A bunch of silly children." Taoist Beiyan sighed softly and looked at Yi Chen. "This person is the genius that appears once in 10,000 years in China, Mad Southern Yi. He's also the idol of you brats." "What? He's Mad Southern Yi?" Everyone, including Ning was shocked when they heard that. Their eyes were filled with shock when they looked at Yi Chen again. Chapter 1584. He's Mad Southern Yi. Apart from being shocked, Xiaowu and the rest felt a burning pain on their faces as they looked at Yi Chen's face. They actually attacked their idol. One had to know that the person before them was a malefic who had killed 5 void refinement old monsters in a row. If it were anyone else, they would have been beheaded long ago. Thinking to this point, the few of them lowered their heads in shame. The woman called Ning looked at Yi Chen in disbelief. Her beautiful eyes were filled with excitement. "So why you're Mad Southern Yi? Now you finally believe that I have no enmity towards you guys, right?" Yi Chen glanced at her with a forced smile before looking at Taoist Beiyan. He saw that the latter's aura was extremely dispirited, as if he had aged dozens of years. His cultivation base had even regressed to beginner-stage god transformation. He said in a deep voice, "How did you become like this?" Taoist Beiyan carefully looked around before sighing faintly, "Fellow Yi, this place isn't safe. Please follow me." After saying that, he led Yi Chen into the rotten mass grave. Outside the mass grave, Ning Xiaowu, and the rest stared at the outside world vigilantly. From time to time, they would look at the karst cave behind them. Xiaowu's gaze paused at the entrance of the karst cave for a few seconds before he said in surprise, "I didn't expect him to be Mad Southern Yi." He still could not forget what had happened earlier. He thought that someone had found out about their whereabouts and kidnapped Ning to find them. Who would have thought that that person was their idol? "Senior Yi is very powerful." Ning told them everything about meeting Yi Chen with a flushed face. Xiaowu and the rest could not help but be shocked after hearing that. Especially when they found out that the young man in black that Yi Chen brought killed a perfected god transformation powerhouse instantly, they were extremely glad. They were glad that the Patriarch of Hell had shown mercy earlier. The narrow and dark underground karst cave was filled with the pungent and nauseating stench of corpses. The uneven ground was filled with corpses. At this moment, there was a green-clothed old man seated in this filthy place. He did not move and his eyes were tightly shut, as if he was no longer breathing. If one took a closer look, they would notice that one of the old man's arms no longer existed. It was as if it had been ruthlessly torn apart by someone, and blood dyed his clothes red. The elderly man was none other than Lei Yunzi. Yi Chen placed a hand on the old man's wrist as his eyes flickered non-stop. Meanwhile, the Patriarch of Hell and Taoist Beiyan stood aside. In particular, Taoist Beiyan had a nervous expression on his face. A moment later, Yi Chen slowly let go of Lei Yunzi's hand. Seeing this, Taoist Dark North immediately asked, "How is it, fellow Taoist Yi?" "Not very optimistic," Yi Chen said in a deep voice. "His injuries are too severe. The vitality in his body has been severely depleted. He has less than 1/10 of it left. Furthermore, He seems to have performed some secret technique that damaged his divine consciousness, so he's in self-defense mode. To put it more accurately, Lei Yunzi was no different from a living dead man right now. The only fortunate thing was that he still had a trace of obsession supporting him. Could it be that he's hopeless? Taoist Baiyan's body trembled as he suddenly knelt heavily in front of Yi Chen. Fellow Yi, I beg you to cure Lei Yunzi. He's never betrayed you. Yi Chen hurriedly helped him up and said with a frown, It's not that there's no way, but you have to tell me what happened first. Taoist Baiyan smiled bitterly and said, That day, you caused too much of a commotion outside the desolate god's tomb. You even killed the patriarch of Huangfu. When Lei Yunzi returned, he was immediately targeted. Was it Su Qilin and the Gu family's patriarch? Yi Chen asked. That's right. Taoist Baiyan sneered. As soon as the two of them returned, they held an emergency meeting and pointed the finger at Lei Yunzi, accusing him of being a disaster to the country and the people. They even asked the elders to punish him. Yi Chen's eyes flashed, as expected. At this point, Taoist Baiyan could not help but glance at Yi Chen. The Gu family's patriarch suggested informing the outside world to use your family to force you to hand over the emperor's seal. As soon as he finished speaking, the temperature in the karst cave suddenly dropped, as if a chill had filled everything. Yi Chen said with a fake smile, Very good, very good. This suggestion was first opposed by Lei Yunzi. Taoist Baiyan sighed softly. Apart from Lei Yunzi, there were also the Qin family and the Ji family who were on good terms with the Lei family. After that, this conflict intensified, and the five great families led by the Gu family started a war with Lei Yunzi and the others. The outcome was obvious. He closed his eyes as if his heart was aching. The Qin family's patriarch and the Ji family's patriarch didn't have much time left. They died on the spot in the battle. However, before they died, they bought time for Lei Yunzi and me. That was how we escaped. Even so, Lei Yunzi was still seriously injured in the battle. He managed to escape with us all the way here with his last breath, and then he fell into a coma. He could not help but cry. The Xianyuan 8 clans were originally the top forces in China. Who would have thought that such a great calamity would happen today, causing China's power to be greatly weakened? At the end of the day, the Gu family and the others are blinded by greed. Yi Chen snorted coldly and said, These so-called ancient clans are just rotten and stinky existences. How can they be so selfish? Do they deserve to be called Xianyuan? I'll destroy these evil dogs sooner or later. After saying that, he immediately turned around and looked at the unconscious Lei Yunzi. If you want to save him, you need to refine the soul-nurturing pill and the rebirth pill. However, the materials needed for these two pills are extremely complicated. It's easier said than done. Materials for refining pills? Taoist Baiyan was slightly stunned. Then, he handed a storage bracelet to Yi Chen. This is a portion of the Lei and Qin family's accumulation. See if you want it? Yi Chen took it and permeated it with his divine consciousness. He immediately looked through most of the things inside and shook his head. Not enough, not enough. I'm still missing 3 main ingredients. After saying that, he could not help but look at the Patriarch of Hell. Patriarch, why don't you make a trip back to the Panwu immortal sect and see if there's anything in the secret vault? The Patriarch of Hell nodded slightly and was about to agree. However, the sound of something tearing through the air suddenly came from outside, mixed with an extremely cold voice. They're here. Find them, even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground. Hearing this voice, Taoist Baiyan's expression abruptly changed. Not good, our whereabouts have been exposed. The 4 great sects of Moli City must have found us. They've been searching for us all this time. However, Yi Chen and the Patriarch of Hell were not shocked. Instead, they laughed. They came in time. Perhaps we won't have to go through so much trouble now. End of this chapter. Chapter 1585. Outside the mass grave. Along with the billowing smoke and dust, several powerful auras landed together and sealed off a radius of dozens of kilometers. The invisible killing intent caused many living beings here to feel uneasy. Among the few figures, an old man with a hooked nose and a red shirt slowly walked out. The old man looked around with a gloomy gaze. The four great sects of the Great River sect had ruled Moli City for many years, but this was the first time a powerhouse from the sect had been killed in public. If they did not find the murderer and tear him into pieces, how could the four great sects establish themselves in Moli City in the future? Following his order, the figures behind him landed on the ground and began a carpet search around the mass grave. In the ravine of the mass grave less than 3,000 meters away from them, the expressions of Xiaowu and the rest changed. The expressions of Xiaowu and the others changed, and they held their breaths. A young man lowered his voice and said, "Oh no, they have found us." Ning quickly informed Senior Bai Yen and the others to move quickly. "Who is it?" The moment he spoke, someone immediately sensed it. "They're over there." Boom! As soon as he said that, the red-robed old man's divine consciousness swarmed over and immediately sensed the whereabouts of Xiaowu and the rest. Then, his figure flashed and attacked them like lightning. Oh no! At that moment, all the hairs on Xiaowu's body stood on end. Although the pressure was not fatal, it made them unable to resist at all. They were filled with despair and helplessness. Another piece of trash who bullies juniors. At this moment, a cold laugh exploded in the red-robed old man's mind. Before the red-robed old man could react, he suddenly saw a huge palm slap over. Bang! At that moment, all the defensive treasures on the red-robed old man's body erupted. Even so, he was still sent flying hundreds of meters away before he spat out a mouthful of blood. Who is it? In the blink of an eye, the figures gathered together and looked behind Xiaowu and the rest as if they were facing a great enemy. A young man in black slowly walked out. Behind the young man in black was a young man in green with his hands behind his back. Who else could it be but the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Chen? The red-robed old man glared at Yi Chen and the Patriarch of Hell. His gaze landed on the Patriarch of Hell. "Are you the person who killed my Big River sect? Are you talking about that trash surnamed Wu?" Old Ancestor Yellow Spring chuckled. "That's right. He was indeed killed by me. He's too useless. After all, he's just a piece of trash who relied on pills to forcefully improve himself." The red-clothed old man could not help but be furious when he heard that. "Sir, do you know that Elder Wu is a member of the Great River sect? Your actions are equivalent to looking down on the Great River sect. So what if I don't care?" Patriarch Yellow Spring smirked. "You're courting death." The red-robed old man and the others were incomparably furious. "Kill him!" Boom! In an instant, 5 terrifying auras charged at the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Chen like a tornado. The space shattered wherever they passed. Patriarch Yellow Spring casually slapped out with his palm, and the terrifying attack of the 5 collapsed on the spot, turning into boundless surging energy. Void Training Stage. This man is an old monster at the Void Training Stage. The red-robed old man suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air. "You're not too stupid. Unfortunately, you found out too late," the Patriarch of Hell sneered. He took a step forward and a vast pressure covered the area. 4 of them turned into bloody mist on the spot. Only the red-robed old man screamed and prostrated on the ground. His eyes were filled with fear. "Senior, it's a misunderstanding. This is a misunderstanding. Ah!" In the next moment, Yi Chen pressed his palm on the top of his head and performed the soul-searching tactic forcefully. He ignored the man's screams and said, "What a Gu family, what a so-called Xian Yuan 8 clans. In order to eliminate them, you actually threw out something like the Void Soaring Dragon Pill." After saying that, he glanced at the Patriarch of Hell and said, "Watch them here. I'll go destroy the sect and kill them." Before the Patriarch of Hell could speak, he disappeared from where he was. Yi Chen took a step out. When he appeared again, he had already landed in Moli City. He forgot to take a look at the mountain range that seemed to stand at the top of the clouds. After that, his figure turned into a long rainbow and landed on the huge mountain range. What came into view was a barrier that seemed to cover the entire world. The barrier was blue in color, and it was a natural moat set up by the four sects to prevent mortals from entering. Beside the barrier, there was a stone tablet that said, "For immortal sects, trespassers will die." Yi Chen placed his hands behind his back as if he did not see it. Subsequently, he threw a punch at the light blue barrier. Rumble! His punch was extremely resplendent, like the sun falling. Instantly, countless ripples appeared on the light blue barrier. The ripples grew larger and larger, and in the end, it turned into countless fragments with a bang and scattered in all directions. One punch to destroy the sect. Following the destruction of the light blue spirit formation, the empty space suddenly changed. Pavilions, terraces, and towers appeared before him like a fairyland. Who dares to barge into the four great sects? You're courting death. At the same time, a series of furious voices rang out. Then, dozens of powerful auras shot over from afar. Yi Chen scanned with his divine consciousness. Among those auras, they were all on the soul formation stage. 8 of them were even at stage soul formation. The dozens of people surrounded Yi Chen. The intense killing intent was like a blade gleam. They could not wait to tear Yi Chen into pieces. Seeing that Yi Chen was alone and so young, the middle-aged scholar who was pointing at the treasured fan took a step forward and said, "You broke the formation of the four great sects for no reason. If you don't explain yourself, you won't be able to leave alive today." "Is everyone here?" Yi Chen asked instead. "You're courting death." A late-stage god transformation stage cultivator shouted and immediately took a step forward. His arms expanded in the wind and turned into 2 ferocious shadows that looked like horned dragons at a speed visible to the naked eye. They charged at Yi Chen. Yi Chen glanced at him expressionlessly. That person let out a blood-curdling scream as both his arms were forcefully shattered. After that, his entire body rapidly fell from the sky and he died on the spot. A late-stage soul formation cultivator was killed instantly. The expressions of the dozens of figures surrounding Yi Chen changed when they saw that. Their eyes were filled with fear when they looked at Yi Chen again. The middle-aged scholar's pupils constricted. "Who exactly are you?" "Forget it, all of you can die." Yi Chen shook his head lightly. Subsequently, he extended his hand and turned it into a huge hand that covered the sky. He pressed down gently from above everyone's head. The void immediately collapsed as if it was splitting the world apart. Apart from the middle-aged scholar, everyone was enveloped within it. End of this chapter. Chapter 1586. As Yi Chen's palm that covered the sky pressed down, rumble! The endless mountain range was forcefully flattened. The earth shook and endless cracks were like a giant spider web. It was a scene of devastation, as if something terrible had happened. Meanwhile, the dozens of figures that were shrouded by the giant palm disappeared instantly. Yi Chen's methods were heaven-defying. He did not use too great a divinity. He merely slapped with his bare hands, causing the mountain range to collapse and the ground to crack. Dozens of soul formation cultivators were killed. The middle-aged scholar who spoke earlier was also the only survivor. At that moment, he was trembling incomparably, and his body was like a sieve. Such methods were beyond his understanding. P-void refinement, old monster. That was the only thought left in his mind. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, countless auras were still rushing over from all directions. When they witnessed Yi Chen's methods earlier, they were so shocked that they could not speak. Was he still human? Yi Chen's gaze shifted and landed on the middle-aged scholar. The latter immediately felt a gaze that was as cold as a knife coming at him. He shuddered subconsciously and looked at Yi Chen in fear. "Senior, die!" Yi Chen spat softly. His divine consciousness was like a blade that shrouded his mudball palace. Ah! The middle-aged scholar screamed and fell to the ground, dead. Yi Chen turned around again and looked at the people who were gathering around him. The gray-robed old man who was leading the group looked at him with bloodshot eyes. Why? Why? He was the supreme patriarch of the great river sect, and he was also a half-step void refinement cultivator. The middle-aged scholar who died in Yi Chen's hands earlier was his only son. He had never provoked Yi Chen before. He did not know why he started a massacre the moment he arrived. Why? Yi Chen smirked coldly. Good question. Forget it, I won't let you guys die without regret. You guys really don't know what's good for you. How dare you hunt down a powerhouse from China, Lei Yunzi? You deserve to die. Plop. As soon as he finished speaking, the gray-robed old man knelt heavily. His face was ashen, and his eyes were filled with deep regret. From the moment Yi Chen mentioned Lei Yunzi, he knew that the four major sects, including his great river sect, were finished. In order to eliminate Lei Yunzi once and for all, the Gu family had released news that they were willing to offer a Rising Void Dragon pill as a reward, and the Rising Void Dragon pill could help one advance to the spatial tempering stage. Such a thing was naturally extremely precious to the four sections. Never had he thought that Yi Chen would be willing to come to Moly City to destroy the four major sects for Lei Yunzi. I've said it before, the Chinese are not to be bullied. Yi Chen glanced at everyone and his voice was extremely cold, not to mention humans, even if it's a blade of grass, a tree, or a dog in China, if you dare to step on it, I'll slaughter your entire family. Disciples of the four sects, kill him. Hearing those words, the gray-clothed old man's eyes turned blood-red. Like a mad demon, he furiously roared, "Those who disobey will be killed without mercy. Kill!" As soon as he said that, many people revealed hesitation, but in the end it was replaced by ruthlessness. Immediately, countless figures charged at Yi Chen fearlessly. Their families were all in the four major sections. Their interests were tied to the four major sections. Even though they knew that Yi Chen's might was unstoppable, they had no other choice but to fight to the death. Your final struggle. Yi Chen's eyes flashed as he took a step forward. Immediately the earth shook and the mountains shook. The void shattered, and many figures screamed as they fell to the ground and died. I'll fulfill your wish today. His expression was cold as he suddenly shouted, "Lightning!" At the same time, everyone in Moly City looked at the four major sects in shock, their eyes filled with fear. That was because in their eyes, it was as if the sky had been torn apart, and endless lightning descended. It was like the apocalyptic lightning tribulation. It was heaven's might, an irresistible will. In the end, the lightning dissipated, and the world seemed to have fallen silent. Some people could not hold back their curiosity, and in the end, they rushed to the place where the battle had erupted. The scene that entered their eyes caused them to suck in a breath of cold air. Tragic, incomparably tragic. The entire ground seemed to have been plowed. Countless mountains were forcefully erased, and not a single blade of grass grew within a radius of 100,000 feet. As for the four major sects that countless people envied and respected in the past, they had long since vanished into thin air. Not a single person was left alive. The four major sects were actually destroyed by a single person? Everyone's scalps went numb, and they were extremely terrified. An hour later, at the mass grave, Taoist Beiyan, the patriarch of hell, and the rest stared fixedly at the terrifying dark clouds in the sky. Lightning and fire faintly intersected there, brewing a heart-palpitating aura. From time to time, the roars of dragons and tigers could be heard from the void. At that moment, there was a figure enveloped by endless pill chi. The patriarch of hell's eyes were filled with admiration. Judging from this phenomenon, the medicinal pill must be about to be completed. I'm afraid it's not inferior to a heavenly pill. He did not expect Yi Chen's alchemy attainments to have reached such a level. He could actually multitask and refine 3 different medicinal pills at the same time. While Taoist Beiyan was pleasantly surprised, he said worriedly, "This medicinal pill actually attracted such a powerful tribulation cloud. What about fellow Yi?" The pressure brought by the tribulation cloud made even his heart palpitate. The Patriarch of Hell smiled without saying anything. "Just watch. An hour, 2 hours, boom." Following an earth-shattering thunderous roar, 3 medicinal pills wrapped in white light floated quietly in the air. From afar, they looked like 3 small suns. Immediately after, 3 true spirit phantoms rose into the sky. The 3 phantoms were dragons, phoenixes, and tigers. They were incomparably dignified, and the moment they appeared, the entire thundercloud boiled. At the same time, an intoxicating pill fragrance began to cover the entire world. It was as if one would become 10 years younger with just a whiff. The medicinal pill succeeded. Taoist Beiyan was extremely excited. "This is only the beginning," the Patriarch of Hell said indifferently. "The birth of a medicinal pill of this grade will cause the heavens to be jealous, and then a pill tribulation will descend. It's the same for medicinal pills. If they don't experience tribulation lightning, how can they become peerless heavenly pills?" Gotcha! At that moment, 3 bolts of tribulation lightning as thick as a baby finally descended from the terrifying dark clouds. Even if it was just a sliver, it caused everyone's scalps to go numb. Boom! The 3 bolts of tribulation lightning landed accurately on the 3 medicinal pills. The 3 heavenly pills immediately emitted a dazzling white light, as if they were frantically digesting the terrifying tribulation lightning. "Oh my God, so terrifying!" Ning and the others turned pale from fright. However, this was only the first wave. End of this chapter. Chapter 1587. Boom. At the next moment, countless bolts of tribulation lightning that were even stronger than before descended again. This time, the tribulation lightning not only struck the 3 heavenly pills, but it also enveloped an area of 3,000 meters in radius, as if it wanted to destroy everything. The terrifying aura that spread out could even be sensed by living beings 100 kilometers away. Then, they prostrated themselves on the ground and trembled. From the beginning to the end, Yi Chen's expression was extremely calm. Finally, the last 3 bolts of tribulation lightning descended. Will it succeed? This time, Yi Chen's eyes flickered. The power of the last wave of tribulation lightning was something that even beginner-stage void refinement old monsters would have to retreat. Once the 3 heavenly pills could not hold on, all their previous efforts would be in vain. Rumble! As soon as the last 3 bolts of tribulation lightning descended, they transformed into 3 enormous lightning dragons that roared over. They were only as thick as a bucket, and one could clearly see the ferocious scales on their bodies. The Patriarch of Hell's expression changed slightly. With a wave of his sleeve, he protected Ning and the rest to prevent them from being affected. At the same time, the entire world seemed to have turned into a lightning prison. Everywhere they saw was extremely dazzling, and everyone closed their eyes subconsciously. Only Yi Chen's eyes were flickering with golden flames. He stared at the center of the lightning tribulation, without moving. Finally, when the lightning dissipated, 3 dazzling medicinal pills that emitted a golden luster kept spinning in the air, and a faint earth-shaking roar could be heard from within. Success? Taoist Beiyan cried out in ecstasy. The Patriarch of Hell said from the bottom of his heart, "Amazing!" Whoosh! At this moment, the 3 pills in the void suddenly shot out in 3 different directions. They were extremely fast and disappeared in the blink of an eye. "They're running? They're running!" Ning and the rest shouted. "3 little guys, do you think you can run away?" Yi Chen smiled lightly. He extended his hand and covered a radius of 30,000 meters. In the blink of an eye, 3 pocket-sized images of dragons, phoenixes, and tigers appeared in his hand. They roared at Yi Chen non-stop. The pills were peerless and had their own spirituality. They wanted to escape the fate of being devoured. Yi Chen opened his mouth and spat. A stream of purple energy landed on the three shadows immediately. The latter turned into 3 golden medicinal pills. In the next instant, he descended to the ground and helped Lei Yunzi up before flicking 2 of the pills into Lei Yunzi's body. 3 days. I only need 3 days. Yi Chen glanced at Taoist Beiyan, who looked nervous. He'll need 3 days to digest these 2 medicinal pills. He'll wake up naturally after 3 days. Taoist Dark North instantly let out a sigh of relief. The Patriarch of Hell said with a faint smile, Old Man Beiyan, Old Man Lei Yun can be considered to have benefited from this disaster. Fellow Taoist Yi has refined such a medicinal pill to save him. Perhaps he might be able to advance further. Taoist Dark North stared blankly for a moment, but then he seemed to recall something. A look of utter disbelief appeared on his face. Are you saying that fellow Taoist Thundercloud might be able to step into the late spatial tempering stage? That will depend on his fortune. Yi Chen smiled lightly and handed the last medicinal pill in his hand to him. This medicinal pill is yours. Take it. Not only can you recover from your injuries, but you might even be able to enter void refinement. Thank you, fellow Yi. Taoist Dark North cupped his fists heavily, tears streaming down his face. I still have important matters to attend to, so I won't stay any longer. Yi Chen looked at the Patriarch of Hell and said, Patriarch, bring them back to the Panwu Immortal Sect. I'll meet you guys when I find Yang Tian. Alright. The Patriarch of Hell nodded slightly. Almost at the moment Yi Chen destroyed the 4 major sects of Moli City. In the Yen Huang Fortress, many giants gathered together. The atmosphere was deathly silent. An old man with a face full of age spots smiled sinisterly. I didn't expect Lei Yunzi to be saved by Mad Southern Yi. How lucky! He was the Qi family's patriarch of the 8 Xianyuan clans. He was also the person who supported the Gu family's patriarch during the internal strife of the 8 Xianyuan clans. The moment the Qi family's patriarch finished speaking, he immediately attracted everyone's attention. An old man with white hair and a youthful face frowned and said, If Lei Yunzi doesn't die, we won't be able to sleep or eat in peace. Although the Gu family had won the internal strife of the 8 Xianyuan clans, the impact was not good. There were many complaints among the younger generation and the upper echelons of China. What's the big deal about Emir Lei Yunzi? Following a cold snort, the Gu family's patriarch sneered and said, The 8 Xianyuan clans have long been controlled by us. Even if Lei Yunzi is lucky enough to recover, he won't be able to change much. We should be more worried about Mad Southern Yi. The moment that was said, the hall fell into dead silence. Mad Southern Yi. That name had become their nightmare in recent days. Even the patriarch of Huangfu had died in his hands. If any of them were to encounter him, they would definitely not be able to guarantee that they would be able to survive. Right at this moment, a calm voice suddenly sounded in the hall. Patriarchs, there's no need to worry. Everyone looked over and saw a silver-haired young man slowly walking out. It was Huangfu Yu. Many of the void refinement old monsters present did not dare to put on airs with him because he was the reincarnation of the Huangfu family's peerless patriarch. This peerless patriarch was once known as the #1 person in the 8 Xianyuan clans. He was only one step away from the legendary spirit severing stage. In order to find a way to step into the spirit severing stage, he did not hesitate to give up thousands of years of his lifespan to reincarnate. Therefore, after the patriarch of Huangfu died, Huangfu Yu naturally became the leader of the Huangfu family and even recovered his early-stage void refinement stage cultivation base. The Gu family's patriarch's eyes flashed. Huangfu Yu, do you have any good ideas? I don't dare. Meeting everyone's gaze, Huangfu Yu said calmly, It's true that Mad Southern Yi is monstrous, but don't forget that he's only one person after all. This person has already offended the 5 Holy Lands, including the 8 Xianyuan clans. The Qi family's patriarch frowned and interrupted him. Don't forget that mad Southern Yi has the support of the sect master of human desires and Qianqiu Wuhan. Many people nodded immediately. Qianqiu Wuhan and the sect master of human desires were like two mountains above the 5 holy lands. Coupled with the mysterious zombieing, that was the reason why the 5 holy lands did not dare to attack Yi Chen at all costs. It's true that the sect master of human desires and Qianqiu Wuhan are powerful. Huang Fuyu smiled lightly and said, however, have you ever thought about why the sect master of human desires and Qianqiu Wuhan don't dare to go to such extremes even though they have the strength to sweep through the 5 holy lands? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone fell into silence. Countless people's eyes flickered non-stop, as if they were thinking about the meaning behind his words. Someone said, in that case, what are Qianqiu Wuhan and the sect master of human desires afraid of? Could it be the world guardian and the holy ape? Huang Fuyu shook his head slightly and smiled without saying anything. Everyone became even more silent. Suddenly, the Gu family's patriarch stood up and stared at Huang Fuyu. He slowly spat out 6 words, Heaven Illuminator. Chapter 1588. In the empty and bright world, there were many green plants on the huge plains. There were many green plants on the vast plain, and all of these plants emitted a demonic aura. From afar, they seemed like venomous snakes that were silently waiting for their prey. A waterfall poured down like the Milky Way. At that moment, the waterfall that was several meters wide with a huge impact was suddenly cut off from the middle. Then, a skinny young man walked out slowly. Yi Chen lifted his eyes and looked around. There was a strange look in his eyes. Is this the wasteland? According to Old Man Black Ice, the core of the Inshu ruins was divided into many areas. There were human cultivators living there, and there were also local living beings living there. The wasteland was where the local living beings of the Inshu ruins lived. Yi Chen mumbled to himself, if I remember correctly, the merfolk are in the southernmost part of the wasteland. It's close to the water. When he thought up to here, he stopped hesitating and dashed towards the south, and everything he saw along the way caused him to be extremely shocked. He saw an incomparably huge snail, and there were more than 10 figures standing on the snail. There were men and women, but their attire was extremely wild and ancient. The snail's speed was comparable to the high-speed rail on Earth. Its pair of antennae seemed to be equipped with the most advanced radar, and it walked through the dense forest as if it was walking on flat ground. However, the strongest among them was only at nascent soul. Yi Chen shook his head lightly and continued moving forward. Suddenly, a figure on the ground caught his attention. In the dense forest, there was a figure lying motionlessly. His entire body was almost naked, as if he was smeared with grass liquid, causing him to look no different from his surroundings. He lay there without releasing any aura. If not for Yi Chen's powerful divine consciousness, he would have been fooled. Yi Chen's eyes flashed, what a unique breath concealment technique! Boom! Suddenly, a shocking beast roar came from the forest in the distance, accompanied by the trembling of countless bushes. Then, a monster that looked like an elephant with a mouth full of barbs roared out. In an instant, the figure lying in the grass suddenly moved. He held an incomparably sharp bone blade in his mouth, and a bone spear appeared in his hand. His whole body leaped out and fiercely stabbed at the monster. The monster seemed to have not expected that someone was actually hiding here. It was first shocked, and then it suddenly roared and urged its enormous body to fiercely collide with that person. Crack! Under such a huge impact, the bone spear in the man's hand immediately shattered. However, the man did not panic. He leaned to the side, grabbed the monster's right ear with one hand, and grabbed the bone knife in the monster's mouth with the other, then fiercely slashed the monster's neck. Poochie! Stinking and bright red blood splattered everywhere. The intense pain caused the monster to roar again and again. Its eyes were completely red as it urged its huge body to charge around, breaking many trees in succession. It seemed to have gone completely mad. On the other hand, That person was lying on the monster's back. One hand gripped the monster's fur tightly, not moving at all. The other hand that was holding the bone knife was pressed tightly into the monster's neck, like an experienced old hunter. After 10 minutes, the monster was finally exhausted from excessive blood loss. In the end, it fell heavily to the ground and did not move at all. Blood dyed the ground red. However, that person was not in a hurry to collect the spoils of war. Instead, he seemed to have sensed something and raised his head to look at the void. His eyes were filled with fear. Yi Chen was even more surprised. This person did not have any spiritual energy on him at all. He was probably not a cultivator, but he could discover his existence even though he did not hide his aura on purpose. His eyes flashed and his body descended quickly. Finally, he landed on the ground and sized up the other party thoughtfully. After seeing him appear, the person's pupils constricted violently. Then, he picked up the bone blade and leaped to the monster's corpse. He looked at Yi Chen threateningly and said slowly, "The young beast is mine. I won't snatch your prey." Yi Chen could not help but laugh. Seeing that the vigilance in the person's eyes was gone, he said after some thought, "The young beast is mine." Only then did the person put away his killing intent. He bent down and carried the monster's corpse that weighed more than a ton. He retreated into the distance and began to peel its skin and bones. From time to time, he would look at Yi Chen vigilantly. There's no true energy or spiritual energy in his body, but he has such explosive power, stamina, and agility. Seems like he's a body cultivator. Yi Chen looked at the person quietly. His eyes flickered nonstop as he said, "Do you know how far away we are from the merfolk?" As soon as he finished speaking, several figures quickly rushed over from the forest in the distance. They were all burly men with rough faces. Their clothes were the same as the previous man. Their bodies were almost naked, and their bodies were smeared with green liquid. Kagu, the leader, was elated at first when he saw the man and his prey. Then, he noticed Yi Chen immediately. At the next moment, he waved his hand suddenly. The 4 burly men behind him stabbed at Yi Chen with their metal forks without saying a word, causing a sonic boom to be heard in the air. "Impudent!" Yi Chen's eyes flashed. He extended his hand and pressed lightly at the 4 of them. The 4 of them cried out in shock. They felt like they could not move at all, as if they were restrained by a pair of invisible hands. Boom! When they saw this, the burly man and Kagu, who were at the back, did not say a word. Their figures suddenly exploded, and they split into 2 groups to outflank Yi Chen. The 2 of them had explosive power that the 4 people before could not compare to. However, even so, they were slapped to the ground by Yi Chen lightly. At the same time, killing intent flashed through his eyes. He had just arrived here, so he did not want to bully the weak. However, the other party had done this time and time again, so they could not blame him for being merciless. Right at that moment, an extremely panicked voice resounded from afar. "Fellow Taoist from the Outerium, please show mercy." Accompanied by deafening booms, an old man with a head full of silver hair wearing beast skin rushed over with a walking stick. He walked in the air, and his body faintly glowed with a red luster. Every pore on his body erupted with the power to destroy the void. There were more than 10 people following behind him, and each of them was more than 100 times stronger than Kagu and the rest. Kagu and the rest were overjoyed when they saw who it was. Yi Chen suppressed his killing intent and squinted as he sized up the group of people. His gaze landed on the old man in beast skin. As expected, these people are body cultivators. The strength of their vital energy and blood isn't something that ancient martial artists can compare to. The old man in beast skin also did not have true energy or spiritual energy in his body. However, all 360 acupuncture points in his body had been opened, and the vital energy and blood in his body were so dense that they could kill soul formation cultivators. Chapter 1589. The old man in animal hide stopped everyone from attacking Yi Chen. then walked towards Yi Chen and solemnly cupped his fists. "Respected outsider, I am Zhu Li, an elder of the Guardian Spirit tribe. My clansmen had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please forgive them." His words were extremely sincere, neither arrogant nor rash. Yi Chen glanced at him and waved his sleeve. Kagu and the rest, who were restrained, immediately regained their ability to move. They instinctively wanted to attack him again. "Bastard!" Zhu Li became angry and shouted, "How dare you do this in front of a heavenly lord of cultivation? Back off!" The expressions of Kagu and the rest changed, and they immediately retreated to the side. However, the countless gazes that were looking at Yi Chen were filled with fear. Heavenly Lord of Cultivation. This was practically their nemesis. Flying swords, magic treasures, divine abilities, spells, talismans, no matter which one it was, they could all unleash earth-shattering power. "Thank you, fellow cultivator." Zhu Li clasped his fists at Yi Chen again. "May I know your name?" "I'm Yi Chen." Yi Chen replied. "So it's fellow Yi." Zhu Li's attitude became more and more polite. "Fellow Taoist Yi, why don't you come to my guardian spirit tribe and drink a few cups of wine? You can consider this old man's apology to fellow Taoists." Initially, Yi Chen wanted to reject him. However, after considering that he was not familiar with the waste region, he nodded. He wasn't worried that Zhu Li had ulterior motives or was plotting against him. In the face of absolute strength, everything was meaningless. "Fellow Taoist Yi, please." Zhu Li was overjoyed and called Yi Chen to follow him immediately. Yi Chen said as he walked, "How do you know that I'm from the outside world?" "I knew it the moment I saw fellow Taoist Yi." Zhu Li stopped and looked at him. She said, "That's because in the past 10 years or so, outsiders have frequently entered our desolate region. Every time they come, they will cause a great bloodbath. Wait until you kill so many living beings in the desolate region and plunder so much wealth. To be honest, many existences in the wasteland realm do not welcome your arrival." He shook his head slightly as if he was bitter. Yi Chen gave a short response and smiled wryly. "If that's the case, why did you invite me to the tribe as a guest? Aren't you worried that I'll be like those people?" "Your Excellency is strong, this old man does not dare to deny it." Zhu Li's expression was calm and not the slightest bit angry. "However, I believe that I still have some tricks up my sleeve. If you really do that, both sides will suffer." He didn't hide the warning in his words. Yi Chen smiled and said nothing more. In less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the group arrived at a village. The village was about 1,000 households, and the villagers were dressed exactly like Kagu and the others. The only thing that caught Yi Chen's attention was the stone tower that stood at the entrance of the village. The stone tower was like a towering mountain, and there were complicated and simple patterns carved on it. It seemed to be an eternal existence that would never fall. At this moment, the ground before the stone pagoda was filled with tributes, and there was no lack of ferocious beasts among them. "This pagoda is my guardian spirit village's ancestral pagoda." As if sensing his confusion, Zhu Li said with a smile, "The ancestral pagoda has a total of 9 floors. According to legend, this pagoda was built by the first village chief of my guardian spirit village. It enshrines the past village chiefs of my guardian spirit village." Yi Chen nodded lightly. He could not help but split a strand of his divine consciousness subconsciously and enveloped the stone pagoda, as if he wanted to pry into the scene inside. Buzz! However, just as his divine consciousness touched the stone pagoda, an incomparably terrifying devouring force suddenly came from the stone pagoda, forcefully devouring his divine consciousness. Yi Chen's expression froze. Interesting. When he wanted to try again, he saw that Zhu Li had already entered the village. Yi Chen could only suppress the urge in him and follow the former. Along the way, he saw an old woman holding 2 stone locks that weighed 250 kilograms with one hand. There was even a child who was not even 5 years old swinging a large cauldron hundreds of meters away. This village is extraordinary. His eyes flickered. First, everyone in the village cultivated their bodies. Second, there was an extremely mysterious stone pagoda. Not long after, he followed Julie into a bamboo building. The bamboo building was not big, but the view was excellent. It faced the stone pagoda at the village entrance and could see the entire pagoda. As soon as the two of them sat down, two sturdy women walked over with 2 large jars of wine. They seemed to be fruit wine. As soon as they opened the lids, an incomparably mellow aroma assailed their nostrils. There was also the faint smell of Chinese herbs. Julie took the initiative to pour 2 bowls and said with a smile, "Fellow Yi, this is the medicinal wine of my guardian spirit village. It has a great effect on strengthening vital energy and blood." Yi Chen did not act pretentiously. He picked it up and drank it in one gulp. He immediately felt as if there was a ball of fire burning in his stomach. Then, it spread through his limbs and bones. Seeing that he actually drank it in one gulp, Julie immediately revealed a shocked expression. "Fellow Yi, you have a high alcohol tolerance. I don't know, but this medicinal wine is extremely strong. Even I can only drink half a bowl at a time. Otherwise, my blood vessels will burst. To be honest, I've cultivated the body-refining Tao before." Yi Chen smiled faintly. Only then did Julie come to a realization. After toasting him 2 more bowls, he stood up and said, "Fellow Yi, I still have something to deal with. Please wait here for a moment." With that, he turned around and left. Yi Chen looked at him thoughtfully. When there was no one around, he separated a wisp of his divine consciousness and enveloped the stone pagoda at the village entrance. As expected, the moment his wisp of divine consciousness touched the stone pagoda, it instantly disappeared. Meanwhile, the stone pagoda remained motionless. Yi Chen's expression did not change. This time, he split a fifth of his divine consciousness. This time, his divine consciousness finally entered the stone pagoda. He immediately felt an ancient aura assaulting his face. This ancient aura was extremely desolate and ancient. The inside of the stone pagoda was rather dark, but the space was wider than he had imagined. Yi Chen controlled his divine consciousness to investigate from the first floor. The higher he went, the denser the ancient aura became. When his divine consciousness entered the highest floor of the stone pagoda, the 9th floor, what was reflected in his eyes caused his pupils to shrink violently. It was a world filled with purplish gold, like a vast purplish gold ocean. In the center of the purplish gold ocean, there was a giant about 300 meters tall lying quietly. The giant's entire body was purplish gold in color. On its skin, there were many mysterious and heart-palpitating runes slowly swaying. The giant seemed to have fallen into a deep sleep. Even so, the breath that came out of his mouth caused the space on the 9th floor to be unable to bear the weight. "This is an ancient body cultivator, Almighty?" Yi Chen calmed down slightly. "That's not right. Even a body cultivator shouldn't have such pure physical strength unless it's an ancient wizard." A horrifying thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Suddenly, the motionless giant opened its eyes. In an instant, it was as if heaven and earth had just been created, and the sun and moon had reversed.